Hello, hello, check. Hello, sound check. Hello. Nabil, Nabil.
Welcome to Skype call testing service. After the
hello, check, hello, 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 check, sound check, hello. Good morning, dear guests. Let me extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this dialogue on SME development in South Asia, how conducive are the tax policies. We are very happy to have with us as chair Mr. M. Saiduzaman, members CPD Board of Trustees and former Finance Minister. We have as our special guest Mr. Qazi Akramuddin Ahmed, President, the Apex Chamber of Bangladesh, the FBCCI. We have with us as designated discussants two of our finest representatives from the academia and the business world. And Dr. Hassan Habib Mansoor is the Executive Director of Policy Research Institute, PRI, and Mr. Nasim Manzoor, of course, is well known to you as the President of the MCC and a major entrepreneur in Bangladesh. This study, I'm also, I have to inform you that our chief guest, Dr. Abdul Razak, MP, he has just phoned us that he may not be able to join us today because of some emergencies that he has to handle and address right at this moment. But we are very happy that you are here, representatives from the business community, representatives from the NBR, representatives from the various development organizations, and all major stakeholders who are involved in the issues that we will be discussing today. The that we will be presenting today was a collaborative study, regional study, which covered 5 countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. And this study was spearheaded by by our partner. Our partner Jimmy is Governance Institute Network is a think tank in Islamabad. Jimmy coordinated the whole study in the 5 countries, of which Bangladesh was a major component. We were supposed to have Mr. Daniel Aziz, Member of Parliament Pakistan, who was supposed to be here, but unfortunately certain circumstances he can't be present here. But we are very happy that Mr. Sabi Haider, Manager Research and Program Development of Gini, he is with us today, and we are very happy that he will be presenting meta-analysis, the regional analysis of this cross-country study. And the Bangladesh team which conducted the study, team members were Dr. Khondakat Ghulam Muazzam, Professor Shapun Kumar Bala, who is the CEO of Dhaka Stock Exchange. He also collaborated with us. Mihirul Islam, Jafar Sadiq, myself, but the key person who really spearheaded the study, Tawfiqul Islam Khan, he is also with us today, and he will be presenting the Bangladesh study. Dear guests, this was as I said, a cross-country study, a first of its kind, which looked at the development of enterprises, particularly the SMEs, from the angle of fiscal policies. 3 issues were looked at. Firstly, the incentives and concessions that are given for enterprise development in this region, the VAT which is in place, and also the property tax. So these 3 have important implications for the development of enterprises, both from the positive side and also not so positive side. But we have looked at SME development particularly, because we think that SMEs are the cornerstone of our economies from the perspective of employment generation, contribution to our economy, and the multiplier effect and impact that SMEs have on our economy. So our angle was mainly the SMEs, and the 1,000 units which were surveyed through extensive questionnaires, mainly focused on SMEs. And in Bangladesh also, out of the 260 plus, I think more than 85% were SMEs. So we wanted to find out how fiscal and tax policies are impacting on development of the SMEs, and what policy initiatives we should undertake in order to advance their interest. So once again, we have with us, as I said, all the key stakeholders, and I am very grateful that our chair is giving his time to us as a major player in the fiscal financial arena in Bangladesh at a certain point of time, both as a top government official and then as minister. Our chair, of course, will share his views, and I am extremely grateful to our special guest. I know how busy Akram Bhai is, but he has never said no to me whenever I have approached him. So very grateful, Akram Bhai, for your kind presence today. We have, as I said, all the key stakeholders here, and we look forward to their inputs. It's a study which is being finalized, so the inputs from our designated discussants and also from you will be very helpful. Please share your views, your comments, your critical perspectives. I think that together we can take forward the interests of the SMEs in Bangladesh, and through Sabi, who is coordinating the regional study, onto other countries as well. At some point of time, we will also try to connect our Indian collaborator, Mr. Kaushik Bhadra, who will be also joining us today at some point through Skype. And I would also like to welcome those who are viewing our program through the live streaming. This program is being live streamed through the CPD website. So from all over the world, people have logged into our website, and they are also observing our program. So I'm very grateful that all of you have come here, and on behalf of those viewers also, I would like to express our deep gratitude to all of you. So this program, which as I said, is being hosted by the CPD in partnership with Gini, and we are hoping that we will be gaining a lot of insight today from the discussion. So with those few words, I would like to hand over the proceedings to our chair, Mr. M. Saiduzzaman. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Mustafiz. Our special guest, Mr. Akramuddin, distinguished discussant, the keynote presentation to be made by Mr. Xavier. And it's a great pleasure for me to be present here in the company of distinguished experts and business leaders. Though not mentioned in the title of the invitation card, the focus of today's discussion is on development of small and medium enterprises, SMEs. The objective of the paper, as I saw it, seems to provide policymakers with data and insight for more informed policy making and implementation of enterprise development, SMEs, generation of productive employment, and helping inclusive growth. On behalf of the CPD, let me also express my regrets that our chief guest is unable to attend this session, and that Dr. Daniel Aziz, who had coordinated this study, is also not present here, but we are happy that his representative is here to make the keynote presentation. Inclusive growth and productive employment generation are undoubtedly the two most important issues in South Asia, with other dimensions such as women's participation, skill development for higher productivity, and also enterprise development for rural non-farm employment generation. These are strongly linked with tax policy, as we all know, and we hope to hear more from the distinguished discussants and the keynote presenter on this. From this point of view, today's dialogue will be of great interest, and undoubtedly tax policy is of crucial importance in this context. I particularly welcome this dialogue, as not much is discussed in public domain about the SME development, though this is a thrust sector under our industrial policy. With due apology to the distinguished guests and participants, I feel hesitant to mention that we hear more about policy advocacy on behalf of the MCCI, BCCI, DCCCI, foreign chambers of commerce and industry, and so on, but not so much on the SME development. According to the research report that I have been able to glance through, a World Bank study points out that tax systems rank among the top 5 obstacles for conducting business by the SMEs. The system of value-added tax is one important issue nowadays in most South Asian countries. According to our present industrial policy, I think it was in 2010, SMEs are categorized into 3 types, as we all know: industrial, business and trading, and services. For small and medium enterprises, there are indicated range of fixed assets other than land and buildings, and there are upper limits of employed manpower. And an SME is not a public limited company in Bangladesh, but though in some other countries there is a SME exchange, I believe, especially in India. All these details vary from country to country in South Asia. Let me mention that Bangladesh Bank has taken a lead role in directing credits to the SMEs through state-owned commercial banks, private commercial banks, DFIs, NBFIs, and also foreign banks. As the large enterprises, the corporate bodies, large industries, multinational business receive much more attention from the commercial banks than the SMEs. So I would like to thank Bangladesh Bank for taking this initiative. And of course the micro enterprises are financed mostly by the NGOs. With these words, I would like to call upon the keynote presenter to make his presentation. But let me mention one thing. Mustafiz mentioned about my past experience and career, but I left the government long back. At that time the tax regimes were different. In fact, the VAT was just tax reform proposals were coming from outside donors, and the VAT system was really developed by Dr. Hassan Mansoor in the early 90s, I suppose. 89, yes. So I'm glad that he is here as a distinguished discussion of this. Now I call upon the keynote presenter.
Thank you. Thank you, ex-minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we warmly welcome you and thank you for your participation. I just start with my regional meta-analysis, and before that I would like to introduce Gini and how we reached there basically. Gini is a governance institution network international. It's a leading think tank. It's working in tax policy and fiscal policy sector, as well as education, decentralization and local government. This was the idea of Gini, that we should, because we are the same region having similar characteristics of different level of governments and different business processes, so we should go for a research that is mutually inclusive and which gives us a learning outcome, shared learning outcome on any issue or any policy making problem. So this project was funded by IDRC, International Development Research Center from Canada, and it spanned over 3 years, and now we are in the final year, and we are concluding this project on 30th March. I'll start with basically the research objectives. The research objective basically was to advance technical knowledge on the relationship between tax policies and development of small enterprises and inclusive growth in South Asia through collaborative time-bound research in South Asia. Quickly, I'll move forward to the framework for meta-analysis. This presentation will focus on meta-analysis overview. Then we can talk about something about tax revenue, political will and tax reforms, the regional comparison. And then we will be sharing with you the key regional survey findings of theme 1, 2 and 3. This research has 3 themes. The first theme is tax exemptions and concessions, as Professor Mustafiz has rightly said, and its impact on SME development. And the second one is value-added taxation in all 5 countries and its impact on SMEs development, and then the property tax. And then there are certain common conclusion and policy recommendations that this presentation will give you. This meta-analysis is aimed at highlighting the similarities and differences, learning outcomes and cross-cutting recommendations at the regional level. The methodology for data collection was that we did a literature review for independent variables and historical and current tax governance systems. The sample was, actually it was conducted a purpose survey of manufacturing SMEs of around 1,000 SMEs in South Asia. There were focus group discussions with SMEs, owners, managers, tax administration, civil society. Then there were key informant interviews. For key informant interviews we did with the tax officials and tax service providers, and then we did a special case studies with women entrepreneurs, because in the sample the women entrepreneurs were very small in the numbers, so we had to go for the case study method. For data analysis we used regional descriptive statistics, basically inferential statistics, and then we triangulated the results to draw learning outcomes, propose cross-country recommendations. As you can see, in South Asian region, the tax to GDP ratio has been like not so great. As you can see, from 2007 to 2012, apart from Nepal, there is like, we have a declining trend, and Bangladesh is upward trending for the from 2008 and onwards. Now I'll go to key regional survey findings. Some of the characteristics of the sample. In our sample, the ownership pattern showed us that the majority of the sample SMEs across targeted countries is sole proprietorship. Second most common in our sample is the limited company, except in Bangladesh where partnerships have larger chunk than the limited company. On the age of the age group of the managers, most of the owners managers fell in the middle age group, above 45 years in Pakistan, India and Nepal. However, in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, this trend is 36 to 45 years of age. This shows that there is like a fair amount of young people, young entrepreneur working in this sector. Experience-wise, most of the firms, owners, managers reported their experience less than 10 years across the region, except India where majority of the sample entrepreneurs have 11 to 20 years of experience. On education, majority of sample entrepreneurs had acquired secondary education. However, in India, 50% of the sample respondents were graduate. On firm characteristics, we asked them that like if with any legal authority, the registration of the firm. So as you can see that most of the firms are registered with some kind of a legal authority. Then there's the total number of staff employed. As you can see in Pakistan, on average 10.8 employees were available in the sample size. In India, the responses were not, they didn't give any response for the number of staff employed. In Bangladesh, our 4.1 employees were there per SME. In Sri Lanka, 7.7, and in Nepal, 11.1. Then there are some characteristics on access to credit. Loans taken during last 5 years. As you can see in Pakistan, India and Sri Lanka, almost 40% of the sample have applied for the loan in last 5 years. However, in Bangladesh and Nepal, above 60% sample SMEs have applied for the loan in last 5 years. Then we asked the last fiscal year. As you can see in Pakistan, only 22 firms said that they applied for the loan in last fiscal year. In Sri Lanka, only 20, and in Nepal, 18, and in Bangladesh, 22. Out of those 22, we asked them that out of those majority who did not apply for the loan in the last fiscal year, we asked that what are the major reasons for not applying for loan. As you can see, there are options: no need for a loan, enterprise has sufficient capital. Most people said that they don't need a loan because the enterprise itself has sufficient capital. Second, most common was the reason was application procedures were complex, and the third most was interest rates were not favorable, and the fourth one was collateral requirements were too high. Size of the loan and maturity were insufficient, as well as did not think it would be approved were the last two major reasons. Then there were some questions on general tax behavior, on tax compliance. Do you pay taxes? In Pakistan, almost 84% said that they pay some kind of taxes. In India, 96%, Sri Lanka 49%, however 51% in Sri Lanka said that they do not pay any taxes. In Nepal, 98%, and in Bangladesh, 96%. Then we asked something about tax multiplicity. Are there any too many types of taxes? As you can see, majority of the sample SMEs have responded that they strongly agree that there are too many types of taxes that they have to comply with. Tax laws and procedures are too complicated. Similar responses across the region, strongly agree or disagree. Mostly firms are saying that they strongly agree or agree with the tax laws and procedures are too complicated. Then we asked about competent tax officials and convenient location of tax office. As you can see in Pakistan, majority of the SMEs disagreed that the tax officials in Pakistan are competent or the location of a tax office is convenient. Similar the case was in Sri Lanka, and as well as however in Bangladesh, most of the people were agree that the tax officials and the convenient location of taxes, they strongly agree with that. The tax officials are competent. Then the business processes, we asked something about business processes, that whether the tax staff are fair and respectful in their dealings. As you can see in Pakistan, most of the majority of the SMEs say that they are not very fond of the fairness and the respectfulness of tax staff. However, in Bangladesh, most of the firms also similar responses that the tax staff is respectful and fair in their dealings. Then we asked a particular question about that if they are registered with any tax authority. As you can see that in Pakistan, 84% of the firms said that they are registered with the tax authority. In India, 96. In Sri Lanka, 38% of the sample SMEs said that they are registered with any tax authority. In Nepal, 93. In Bangladesh, 88% said that they are registered with the tax authority. Then we asked that if why they are not interested in tax benefits to avoid hassles associated with compliance requirements. As you can see in Pakistan, 51% of the sample SMEs said that they are not interested in tax benefits or VAT refund to avoid hassles associated with compliance requirement. In India, 22%. In Sri Lanka, only 2%. Their frequency was 2 SMEs, and in Nepal, 22 firms said that they are not interested in tax benefits. However, in Bangladesh, 71% of the firms said that they are not interested in tax benefits to avoid hassles associated with compliance requirements. Now I start with my first theme, impact of tax exemption and concessions. The first one is receiving tax exemptions, that how many SMEs are receiving tax exemptions at that moment of survey. As you can see in Pakistan, almost 16% of the firms were receiving some kind of tax exemptions. In India, 9%, in Sri Lanka, 3%, and Nepal, 2%. In Bangladesh, 27% of the firms were receiving some kind of tax exemption and concessions. Then we asked SMEs about what kind of impact tax exemption and concessions have on firm sale, productivity, and competitiveness. With regard to firm sales, we had a parameter of increase in sales. As you can see in Pakistan, almost 45% said that they have the tax exemption and concession has a high impact on increase in sale, and 25% said that they have medium impact on sale. In India, however, 58% of the firms said that the tax exemption and concessions have a medium impact on firm sales, productivity, firm sales. In Nepal, almost only 2 firms responded. In all, 5 firms responded, and out of that, those 4 said that some kind of a high or medium impact in sales the tax exemption and concessions have. However, in Bangladesh, 27 firms and 19 firms respectively said that the tax exemption and concessions have a increasing impact on sales. Increase in productivity, the second parameter, almost similar trend was seen all around, that tax exemption and concession has some kind of medium to high impact on increase in productivity. And then increase in competitiveness, as you can see that in sorry, if you can turn the light off. Camera.
The camera.
Thank you so much. Okay, increase in competitiveness, 16% and 37% of the firms said that the tax exemption and concession have increasing impact, positive impact on competitiveness, and that their competitiveness have increased. However, in India, similar responses with 42% saying, but although at the same point 48% firms said that they don't see any effect on the increase in competitiveness with regard to tax exemption and concessions. In Bangladesh, majority of the sample said that it has a positive impact on increase in competitiveness. Then we asked the SMEs that what kind of tax-related government assistance they need for business expansion and why, what they want. As you can see, there are like the top three. What they want is reducing tax rates, granting tax exemptions, and granting tax holidays. And then the last one is strengthening the services of tax authorities towards SMEs. Impact. The VAT compliance. Do you pay VAT? As you can see, in Pakistan, 51% of the firms said that they pay VAT, that is called GST, General Sales Tax in Reform General Sales Tax in Pakistan. In India, 90% of the firms are paying VAT. In Sri Lanka, only 5% are paying VAT. In Nepal, 45% are paying VAT, and 52% of the sample SMEs did not pay any VAT. In Bangladesh, 53% of the sample SMEs pay VAT, and 47% did not pay any VAT. Then we asked their perception that is VAT compliance beneficial or burdensome for business development. As you can see, in Pakistan, only 28% said that the VAT compliance is beneficial for their business development. However, 72% said that it is burdensome on their business development. In India, however, similar situation, that 71% of us said that VAT compliance is burdensome. In Sri Lanka, 86%, and in Nepal, almost 46% said that the VAT compliance is burdensome. However, in Bangladesh, 74% said that the VAT compliance is burdensome on their business development. Then we asked that has this enterprise faced difficulties in obtaining VAT refunds? As you can see throughout the sample SMEs in Bangladesh, most of the firms said that they do not have any kind of difficulty in obtaining VAT refunds. However, in Pakistan, 24% said that they face some kind of difficulty in obtaining VAT refunds. In Sri Lanka, 71% said that they face difficulties in obtaining VAT refunds. Reasons behind SMEs, MSMEs not being VAT compliant. Lack of awareness is the number one. No benefits with the compliance, VAT compliance. Then procedural complexity. And the fourth one is problematic behavior of VAT administration, and then the possibility of future harassment. Perception about VAT administration. We asked on three parameters. That the first one is performance, then friendliness and of tax officials, and then the frequency of visits of tax officials to perform their duties. As you can see, in Pakistan, a majority of the firms said that the performance of the VAT official is either low or very low. However, in India, 43% of the firms were indifferent, but 35% of the firms said that the VAT administration, performance of the VAT administration is low. In Sri Lanka, 95% of the sample SMEs were indifferent. They did not wanted to answer this question. In Nepal, however, 53% of the firms said that the VAT administration's performance is very low. However, in Bangladesh, as you can see, that 48% said that they are indifferent, but 31% of them said that they feel high of performance of VAT officials. Perceptions towards the friendliness of VAT regulation towards SMEs, MSMEs development. With regard to friendliness, in Pakistan, majority of the firms said that 34% and the 46% respectively said that the friendliness of VAT regulation authorities were either very low or low. Similar responses were in India, and in Sri Lanka there were no responses as such, they were indifferent. However, in Bangladesh, as you can see, that 35% of the firms said that they are indifferent, 22% said that the friendliness of VAT regulation is good, and 32% of the firms said that they do not take as much friendly the behavior of the VAT regulation towards them. Are VAT regulatory authorities less administrative friendly towards women entrepreneurs? Approximately almost all except Pakistan, where almost 67% of the, or 43% of the sample SMEs said that that the VAT regulatory authorities are less administrative friendly toward women entrepreneurs. However, as you can see, Bangladesh 48% said that no, they are friendly to the women entrepreneurs. However, this is yeah. Now, impact of property tax on SME development. Does your enterprise pay taxes on its property? As you can see across the region, in Pakistan, 52% of the firms said that they pay some kind of taxes on its property. In India, 48% said that they pay taxes on its property. In Sri Lanka, 60%. In Nepal, 67%. And in Bangladesh, 36% said that they pay taxes on its property. Which type of property? Yeah. Which type of property tax do you pay? There were like three options: commercial property tax, residential property tax, and industrial property tax. In Pakistan, majority of the almost 26% of the firms were operating at a residential property tax, giving property tax, and 72% were operating on the commercial property tax. However, only 2% were doing business on industrial property tax. In Sri Lanka, 87% were doing business on residential property tax. However, in Bangladesh, 41% were doing business on commercial. And 21% were doing business on residential property tax. However, 38% were doing business on industrial property tax. Now we go to problems related to property tax compliance. As you can see, the major was that the number one option that they checked in was no problem, non-payment or payment at a little amount, because the amount is little, so they did not feel any problem with property tax compliance. The second was absence of self-assessment. Then third one was discretionary valuation of property by taxmen. The fourth one was frequent asking for increased volume of tax. In our theme 3, the major finding was that the majority of the firms feel that the procedure of land acquisition is complex. As you can see, in Pakistan, 88% of the firms almost said that the procedure of land acquisition is complex. Similarly, in India, 58%, in Sri Lanka, 62%, in Nepal, 104 firms, in Bangladesh, 92. Does land acquisition involve high cost? Almost all the sample SMEs said that the land acquisition involve high cost. Now we go to common findings and issues. The following communities emerged from the literature review, focus group discussions, and KIIs. Number one was lack of standard SME definition across the South Asian countries. They find it difficult to standardize the criteria used to define SMEs across institutions that levy taxes, encourage investment, promote trade, provide credit and support to SMEs. This makes the policy mix for institutions fragmented and incoherent, while its net impact on SMEs becomes difficult with any degree of certainty. Number two was the lack of tax awareness. The level of awareness and understanding among SMEs of tax policies and administrative procedures is extremely low, and steps needed to be taken to address this before SMEs can be expected to formalize and grow. With regard to value-added tax, almost all SMEs face medium to high compliance costs with their respective VAT regimes. This discourages registration, ultimately hampering their profitability and competitiveness. In certain countries except India and Sri Lanka, researchers have found strong arguments and support favoring the establishment of a multiple rate VAT system rather than a single flat rate. However, in India, the policy recommendation sought uniformity in VAT rates. With regard to tax exemption and concessions, it was found that tax expenditure policy is neutral vis-a-vis size, but prioritizes certain industries that are deemed significant with regard to investment or trade. These industries are invariably those where SMEs find it difficult to compete with larger, more established firms due to a variety of reasons. In most cases, SMEs that can apply exporters are unregistered or exempt from VAT, which means exporters cannot claim input credits from them and so have no incentive to buy from them. At the same time, exemption threshold may encourage tax avoidance, so firms prefer not to expand business but to establish a new business to remain under the exemption threshold. With regard to property tax, we found that property tax does not affect enterprise development directly, as the local tax administration system is weak, valuation tables are obsolete, and the tax rate is too low to affect earnings. At the same time, it was found that commercial and residential area land use does not affect the decision making. Use does affect the decision making of entrepreneurs regarding growth and formality. Then the process of acquiring land is highly cumbersome, as you have seen in the last slide. The common recommendation there's a need to educate taxpayers using methods such as practical illustrative tax guides, workshops and seminars on tax systems to make tax regimes non-discriminatory towards particular industry sector. There's a need to make provisions for self-assessment of tax. There's a need for transparent tax return calculation mechanism, improve the accessibility of tax administration services offices and enhance services quality. That is, operate fully automated e-return system, appoint certified tax facilitators. Then there was a recommendation that streamline both the tax design and the tax administration to reduce the compliance costs. Taxpayer-friendly returns, less frequency in filing of returns for small enterprises, tax forms in local languages. A broad consensus can be built at this venue to at least harmonize the sector-wise definition of SMEs by public and private sector governing institutes. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haider, for your very exhaustive presentation on the tax policies, tax administration, attitude of the entrepreneurs towards this tax system and so on. Before I call upon the next presenter, let me inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that we have a very distinguished visitor joining us, Begum Akhtar Jahan, a member of our parliament. And Madam, we welcome you with great enthusiasm, and we hope that you will say something when your turn comes. Oh, I did not notice that Dr. Mirza Azizul Islam, a former advisor to the caretaker government for 2 years, is also here with us. He is also supposed to make some contribution to the discussion. Now, let me call upon Tawfiq Islam Khan for his presentation. You have 20 minutes, Tawfiq.
Sure. Do you mind if we ask some questions to the presenter beforehand? Because then there will be next presentation.
We'll have an.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I think Mr. Haider's presentation highlighted the South Asian findings vis-a-vis Bangladesh, and what I'm trying to focus on, not to go much what Mr. Haider has said. We had 3 different themes looking at the 3 different issues, and those are the team members, and I'm grateful to all of them for conducting these studies. So the 3 major themes, as you know, is tax exemptions and concessions, value-added reforms, and local property tax. Those are the 3 issues in the context of Bangladesh, and we will try to look at how the findings have come in general for all the themes, because surveys were conducted in one shot, so some findings are common and some are theme specific. So we used the methodology the same for the South Asian countries, but let me explain how we conducted the survey in Bangladesh a bit more elaborately. We surveyed 262 firms, and among them 220 enterprises were SMEs. There is a definition issue in terms of SMEs, because different policies consider SMEs differently. So, but the definition we stick with was firms with less than 100 employees. We considered them SMEs, and for 100 and above we call them the large firms. So we surveyed mainly 4 divisions: Bogura, Chittagong, Dhaka, and Norsingdi. And among these 262 samples, 37 enterprises were from BC area. So that is kind of a specialized zone that we covered. Most of the firms we found that they are registered. Now the definition of registration was they have some sort of registration. So that means that we need registrations from different authorities for different purposes. But if one firm has some sort of registration, at least with a business license or with the local authority or with some sort of tax file, then we called it registered. So, and we can see that most of them, 50% of them had trade license with city corporation or municipalities, so with local government authorities. Mostly our farms are sole proprietorship, so when we consider the tax exemptions and concessions, we need to consider that many of them are actually paying personal income tax in that sense. So they may not be enjoying the concessions offered for listed companies and offered for other companies. So mostly they are using the personal income tax TIN. So that is what is the context of Bangladesh. The average year of experience is 13.6 years, and 77% enterprises are operating for more than 5 years. So we had a kind of mix. But what we have seen that many firms were in between 2005. You need to note that we conducted this survey in 2013. So many of the findings are in the context of 2013 rather than in the context of this time. So employment generation capacity, usually the firms ranges between 8 to 85. On an average we find 22 for SMEs. Educational qualification, we've seen that entrepreneurs are highly educated or higher educated in large scale enterprises. For assets, 119 SMEs, that is more than 50% surveyed SMEs, have capital investment below 5 lakh. So average capital investment of large enterprises on the other hand is 3.65 crore. So what we generally concluded that the small and medium enterprises are mostly labor intensive compared to the large firms. So, annual turnover for SMEs, we have found 45 lakh on an average, that is median value, and large SMEs is 2.88 crore. So high excess of formal credit is evident. I think 66.5% of the surveyed firms got access to formal commercial loan compared to 7.7 from cooperatives and 16.5 from money lenders. Now the issue is when we are talking about formal commercial loans, it also sometimes included the MFIs beyond or NBFIs. So not only the banking system, so it can be non-bank or MFIs as well. 80.6% LS is available credit to formal lines as well. So firms by and large are tax compliant. Now this can be misleading, but that was the definition. Tax compliant means they pay some sort of tax. So in that sense, 96% enterprises were either direct taxpayers or indirect payers. So we are not sure. We could not within the scope of our the study. We do not know that they paid the adequate taxes or not. So compliance in that sense, they pay some sort of tax. So overall perception and experience as regards tax was rather unsatisfactory. 80% either strongly or moderately agreed that structure of tax was not favorable for business. And this is merely perception in that sense. So this is a perception survey at the same time. Municipality of taxes has multi-dimensional adverse impact. So harassment, increased cost and waste of time. That was the perception of the entrepreneurs as well. And competency and performance of tax administration was provided more or less acceptable. But what we have found, because we not only conducted the survey, we also went to interview and FGDs. So sometimes we thought that the perception of entrepreneurs depended on how they were treated with the tax authorities. And in Bangladesh, not often tax authorities visit farms more often, more frequently than that. So sometimes I think these issues affected the survey results and perceptions also. Compliance cost is too high, and what we have found that in general compliance costs are biased or in favor of LSEs. So for large enterprises, they have the cost less compared to their scale if you compare between SMEs and large. So farms are not willing to become formal. So many of the farms are not, when it's a formal, we are talking about they don't want to take tax compliance, and this is particularly related with VAT. What we have seen that we will go into more detail when we are talking. We'll talk about theme 2, the VAT results. That VAT license or VAT certificate or VAT registration is required to farms become larger, to expand their businesses, particularly if they want to compete in a formal channel, in a tendering process. They need those documents. But they are also afraid that once you get that formalization process or certificate, then you have a more chance to kind of attract tax officials and look into their files as well. So there is a dual processes there. So let us look at the tax exemptions and concessions results. According to the survey data, majority of farms do not enjoy any significant benefits from tax exemptions and concessions. So that does not mean that they don't have anything offered for themselves. So they do not enjoy. And what we have seen that about 70 to 75% farms are not interested to avail tax exemptions. And why is that? Mainly there is a lack of government initiatives. SMEs are not bothered about tax payments and compliance. And so they don't want the exemptions as well. What we have found that under the small and medium enterprises, some facilities are there. If they are registered, they apply, they can get concessions. But the processes are so complex for an SME entrepreneur that sometimes they don't bother. Rather, it's better to pay some tax, maybe pay not everything, and they can go with it. Respondents are also divided in their perceptions on biasness of tax exemptions and concessions. So some of them, they think that all the exemptions are for the large firms. Some of them, they do not know they can also avail tax concessions. So that is another one. And most of them, even if this is a tax concession, when we say, did you get a concession? They say, yes. And what sort of concession is that? They said, we get the package VAT. So package VAT is very popular, we have found. So they think that is also a tax concession. Also, we mainly focused on income tax or corporate tax in this theme 1, but we have found in our survey and in our KIIs and FGDs that this is one area that entrepreneurs responded very positively. And they do also have lack of knowledge about the tax structure as well. So sometimes they don't really know that what benefits they can have. From the survey respondents, we asked them that what kind of policy support do you need? And most of them, they think that tax rate is very high, reduce it a bit. Provision of tax exemptions, they think they need more provision of tax exemptions. Some people also suggested tax holidays and make rules easier and tax concessions. Entrepreneurs require assistance for SME development to access easy loan, that is 54% of them say, and to have a low interest credit 28%. And access to land was mentioned by only 11% of the SMEs. And we will find it why when we go to theme 3. Observations as regards VAT compliance. So, as I said, many farms are apparently VAT compliance in a sense that they actually pay some sort of VAT. So, 54% of the SMEs are registered with VAT authorities. So, that is not very high. SMEs took an average 5.5 years to become VAT registered after their inception. So it is not that a farm is established and they immediately go for VAT registration. So it takes some time. So if it takes some time, they're expanding, they're growing, they need those, and that is one of the reasons, main reasons. Annual average VAT paid by an SME in 2012 was 19,000. That is a median value. The compliance cost of VAT was found to be burdensome for SMEs. And we have found that the basic, some basic firms, they collaborated with each other, and they take the technical support from basic as well to become VAT compliant, to understand what procedures they have to follow. Special provisions of VAT and issues regarding double taxation for SMEs did not get adequate focus in the survey findings. So this is, but on the other hand, when we did our KIIs and FGDs, this issue was highlighted. So we were also could not explain that. The survey data explored general reasons for not being compliant, and the issues mentioned by the entrepreneurs are procedural complexity, lack of awareness, complex rules, and possibility of harassment. Perception towards VAT policy and tax officials are found to be indifferent by most people, and this is associated with the visits of the tax officials as well. Definitely what we were interested at that point was about the new VAT law among the SMEs, and we asked them that, do you know there is a new VAT law is coming? And what we have found that they don't really had a clear idea what is coming at that point. So what we recommended for the study is that the forthcoming new VAT law regimes needs to recognize SMEs in that sense, because they think that in a general VAT law will be difficult for them to carry on. The VAT-related Act and rules need to incorporate SME-related special provisions in a clear and articulated manner. So we understood that at that point that the special provision of package VAT was about to go, but then immediately SMEs were not prepared to take the general laws and rules that was offered similar to LSEs. And definitely we also recommended to procedural simplicity and friendliness of tax administration. But then as you know that in last couple of years VAT, the entire there is still a debate going on between the policy makers and the business people, and major concern areas we identified was a single VAT rate of 15% and abolition of truncated base, discontinuation of package VAT, significant expansion of documentation requirement, and additional powers vested with the tax authorities. And we during our discussion on this in December, we also found that the business people and stakeholders thought that VAT rate of 15% is quite high for Bangladesh, and maybe we are expanding the VAT now with the new law, and it can be reduced. So we are also seeing that procurement of software and hardware were not done, and now the VAT law will not be coming into effect from 1 July of this year, but it will come into effect from 1 July of 2016. But what we are not sure, but we probably get more light on this today, is that what happened to the joint committee of NBR and business people, FBCCI, and is there a result and is there a consensus? Definitely. On the property tax, we all know that the property tax, when we talked, they don't have much idea what the property tax was, and mostly the related is the tax on land and some municipal tax at the local level. So that those are the two holding tax and things like that. So in general, what we have found before going into the study findings, that the property tax was not found very significant in Bangladesh to the business. What became more important on the issue of property tax is acquisition of land and the price of land and rent of land. So those are the issues more important for entrepreneurs compared to tax on land. Level of property tax compliance is considerably low. This is one of the reasons is that they don't pay these taxes very frequently. So that they pay these taxes, but it's not very significant, but they pay with an interval. Maybe after 3-4 years they pay it at once because the amount is so low and they don't want to go for procedural complexity every year. So they do not also have a large amount of compliance cost on that. Compared to SMEs, LSEs, they have a much higher compliance cost. Overall, land and property tax related issues appear to affect large firms more. That's what we have found. And value of land is in general the basis of property tax. And we have found that I want to tell that 25% of the property tax of the firms mentioned owing land helps growing the business as well, which is not mentioned here, but this is one area. But we have to understand that a number of SMEs are operated in rented land or rented houses or factories. So perhaps much of the property tax in the form of land tax is not applicable for them. Valuation has found to be a key issue on property tax, and we know about the difference between shown price and actual price. And what we were surprised that the shown price can be higher and lower than the actual price. And when it comes, is lower shown price compared to actual paid price to evade tax and fee. And we know that much of the undisclosed money, and it was mentioned several times in past few years, that lower shown price created undisclosed money within the economic system as well. And higher shown price is also is helpful for loan applications. So usually this higher shown price is applied for farms who are located a bit in the periphery. So where land price is not very high, so they show a higher price so that they can mortgage that land or property to get a higher amount of loan. Increasing price of land are no longer affordable for SMEs. So many of the SMEs, they are not even planning to buy land and operate on their land, although they perceive that this could be helpful. Administration capacity, irregular property tax collection. So tax collection on property tax is not very regular, so they are not visited regularly. There is a low awareness and knowledge level among the SMEs as well. So usually they don't have much idea about what property tax they have to pay. Unaccounted wide range of economic activities under the tax system, especially in rural areas. So that is one area we have found. In the rural areas, there is no tax for many economic activities. Record keeping cost is low. Compliance cost is somewhat extent visible. Acquisition of land without dispute has become difficult. So these are the suggestions we have come up with. Tax officials may find location of specific real transaction value to generate more tax. And administrative capacity needs to be increased. Digitization of the records and the compliance cost is not burdensome, but because of the double taxation, and this needs to be addressed. So I'm asked to round up, and if you have questions, our colleagues can also discuss it later, and you can download the papers from the following. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawfiq, for your presentation and for almost sticking to the time allotted to you. The next item on the agenda, as worked out by the management of CPD, is comments by distinguished discussants from Bangladesh. We have two distinguished discussants, Dr. Hassan Mansoor and Syed Nasim Manzoor. The management has allocated them 10 minutes each. So I call upon Dr. Hassan Mansoor to make his comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished guests and the presenters. Today's discussion is very topical in the sense that much of the issues have been coming around the VAT system and how the small and medium enterprises are impacted by the VAT system. And since Bangladesh is about to introduce a new VAT law, there's a lot to learn from the past one and the past practices, because it's always difficult to change the culture than changing the law. Changing the law is easy, but changing the culture is difficult. And the perception survey is a good guide to indicate how the tax authorities and the government should be aware about the need for changing the culture of tax administration. And so I think this perception surveys that's presented here sheds a lot of light. And the perception surveys or the summaries that we got from the perception surveys conducted in other South Asian countries also gives us a lot of food for thinking, because there are a lot of commonalities. There are a lot of common issues that are experienced by small and medium enterprises across South Asia, and we can learn from this shared knowledge. So this is very timely and appropriate in that regard. Now I want to come to the one important thing that often mentions but not sometimes carefully thought through, is that the relationship between small enterprise, small and medium, and the tax laws, particularly be it excise, be it VAT, be it whatever indirect tax is currently in operation. Yes, small enterprises need special attention, certainly, they do. At the same time, the law cannot be, the tax laws cannot be overly burdensome and complicated, which gives a lot of leeway in terms of application, and then the victim will become the taxpayer. So law needs to be balancing the two very carefully. And the other thing is that a system like VAT is a what you called a account-based system. There you cannot have different issues like what is called non-account based criteria, like 20 people employed or this or that, or 5 people employed should be out of this or not. That's not the criteria. Criteria is the threshold, sales threshold of the company. That means if you're small by the financial criteria of your sales value. Doesn't matter whether you are 1% selling 20 crore or you are 200% selling 1 crore. It's irrelevant. If you cross the threshold, you are liable to pay. That's the criteria. So which often complicate our tax laws, and Bangladesh has done it, like our cottage industry, our this, our that. Those are all distinctions which we are very familiar with, but has no relevance in terms of tax compliance internationally, globally and otherwise. So what does it do then? Well, it creates, but still it has to allow for some differences for the small and medium enterprises. And that's normally done through what you call the standard threshold that is applied, below which you don't apply VAT, you apply turnover tax or you just ignore them, and above which we apply the VAT. So you take care of the small and medium enterprises, but take care of it through the threshold mechanism, not by the definition of small and medium enterprise, not by any physical characteristics of size of the shop or the number of employees or their payrolls and so on. That's not the criteria. Criteria is the amount of sales that the company or the firm is making, and that's the only criteria for judging it. And it's based on the accounts of sales. Now, one can say that it's very complicated. What's the complication about? Because everybody, even a mudi dukandar, must know how much he's selling at the end of the day, his total sales. And that's all that's needed to determine the threshold criteria. And that's all that is needed to pay the turnover tax. Turnover tax does not require anything else but the amount of sales times whatever is the percentage. In this case, in Bangladesh, is 3%. So you have your monthly sale or daily sale, annual sale, apply 3%, give it after 3 months, 6 months, pay it. That's all that is there. That's a simplified version. It cannot be any more simpler. I don't think anybody, any genius can make it any simpler than that. That's the way small, and that's our own making. It's not the making by the law. It's not making by the rule. It's the way it is administered. And that means if I don't want to pay the 3%, I can make an arrangement with the tax officials. You don't come, I pay you something at the end of the month or every end of the year or and so on, and we settle it. So I remain outside the net and you don't bother me. That's a common practice, and that's common practice across South Asia, I'm sure. So that's where the problem comes. And that's not the issue that we can resolve by changing the law or the rule. It's the changing the mindset of the people that needs to be changed here. Now, still we are learning from this experience that how do you go about it. For example, in Bangladesh, not only we have this, what you call the originally this was introduced is this the handicraft type. What is called is no handicraft type for cottage industries. Then we brought in the packaging VAT, which is another distortion only, I would say, because what is the package VAT is about? Basically, you categorize yourself as outside the net and pay something lump sum and forget about it. You get out of the formal VAT structure. Fine. How much money coming from that? Well, last year or year before, 2013 probably, 50 crore taka only. From all of package VAT, all over Bangladesh, 50 crore taka. So, is that something that is burdensome for the industry? Obviously not. It's not even, their sales volume probably in trillions of taka. But revenue, 50 crore. So you can compare it how burdensome is the legal part of the tax that's paid by the package VAT beneficiaries under the VAT system. So again, issue is that we keep on distorting things in one way or another and make the tax system much more inefficient. Now, still the government and the industry has been talking on how to go about it. And the new VAT law is coming into place, is referred to in the study. Here, because of the previous experience, government decided to go for two threshold approach. The first threshold is completely exempt from any kinds of interventions by the tax officials. Those are the pan bidi dokandars and all that things which will remain completely outside the tax net. They don't even have to pay turnover tax, nothing. They are out. The second threshold is between that and the other one, and the real VAT threshold is the one which will be paying the turnover tax. And the third one is the VAT. So that's another innovation. Hopefully it will reduce what you call the hassle of potential taxpayers due to the tax system and the interference by tax officials. So that will hopefully take care of some of the things. But the major thing is that if you want to really improve the system, you have to change the modus operandi of that. What is it? Automation is the way to go. And like if you want to get a VAT registration, the report clearly says it's costly. You have to go, you have to pay, you have to spend time, and that is not needed. You should be able to do it if it is automated, sitting in your store or going to a cyber cafe and get yourself registered. And that should be the way in future, hopefully, if this is done properly, if this new VAT law. Second thing is that automation will also take care of your payment system. You don't have to go and get the returns approved by the tax officials. You will send it And it's all self-assessment. Currently also it's self-assessment. You are doing your own assessment. No tax official is doing assessment for you. It's being done by the firm itself. In automated system, you just send it by electronically and that's it. So you save face-to-face interaction and potential exchange of unauthorized tax. So that way it reduces your tax compliance. So we hope that these are the changes, the modernization of the tax system, that will eventually lead to a better, a significant reduction of tax compliance cost, legal and otherwise, and it will also lead to efficient payment system and lead to better enforcement on the part of the government. And that's the way government should be going, and go without any hesitation. That is our suggestion to the government. I do not believe that segmentation for a separate kind of tax regime for SMEs will do any good under the new VAT law or any VAT system anywhere in the world, and that's not the way to go. It will be a backward regression rather than forward progression. I fully agree with many of the suggestions which are aimed at reducing tax burden. Tax burden means unauthorized tax burden, and or the compliance cost, and they should be looked at as part of the government strategy for reaching out to the taxpayers or the taxpayers education program, and also as part of administrative reform and what you call the mindset change for the tax officials in the context of the new VAT law, if we want to really reduce the tax burden on the business community. And that's what it is. And the property tax issue is an untapped potential for Bangladesh. Our tax rates are so low, there is virtually nothing, and in many cases for landed property particularly, you have to pay 10 times more to pay the tax. To pay 1 taka, you have to pay 10 taka to the tax officials just to pay. That is the way it now is. So there is a need for major overhaul in that area, and the potential is unrealized, completely undersized, and that money should go to the local governments for improvement of service provision at the local level. That's where it is normally done in other countries. And Bangladesh property taxes level, when I compared with my house in Washington, I pay $19,000 a year, and I compare the equivalent things here, I find that it's not even few $100. So but for equivalent amount of rental value in Dhaka city, for equivalent amount of rental value, one is few $100, the other is $19,000. That's the kind of difference we are talking about in terms. I'm not talking about apples and oranges. Apple for apple is a difference of thousands of percentages in terms of tax amounts, and that needs to be looked at if we really want to make the properties income earning. This will, if you properly impose property tax, will make all those plots which are vacant, which are being kept for speculative purposes, become productive, because you will not pay high taxes and keep a property underutilized. You would like to make it productive and make the cash flow out of it to pay for the property tax. Otherwise, not justified. So you have to look at your property tax in a much broader context, not in the very small context, and that's where Bangladesh should be going forward. Thank you very much. There are a lot of issues to talk, but time is short.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hasim Mansoor. I know that you are an expert on the VAT system, so I overlooked the time that you have exceeded. I just want to make 2 points. One, I fully agree with your point that the VAT should be based on a turnover basis above a certain limit. And secondly, I disagree with you about the automation, because it depends on the level of education of the people. Maybe a certain percentage of people may be allowed to, may be able to follow the automation system, but a large
Automation
percentage
is not mandatory. It
should be optional. It should be optional.
It is always. The law is that way.
That's why I wrote an option. That's all right.
It's an option.
So thank
for
you very
Wall
much.
Street.
Now I call upon Sir Nasim Manzoor, President of the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for his comments.
Thank you, sir. First of all, on behalf of the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I would like to thank CPD and Gini for this discussion today on the tax policy and enterprise development in South Asia. I'd like to start with the first paper that we heard today, and I have some observations and some questions as well. The point that we started off with, needing to improve wages and productivity, is actually something that moves beyond SMEs in Bangladesh. And I think that's, if Bangladesh is to remain competitive in manufacturing, both in the domestic and as well as export fronts, we need to talk about productivity. And research shows that even SMEs are actually higher in terms of productivity in many cases, other than the fact that they lack access to technology and automation, which is, of course, something that has come up in this paper. Now, the first point that came out for me was this fact that we always talk about the trend of Bangladesh upward trending from 2010, I believe, from tax to GDP ratio. Whether it's SMEs or whether it's large sector enterprises, we've all heard about Bangladesh tax to GDP ratio being unsatisfactory, even though it's trending upwards. But if you look at a country like Indonesia, and it was on the slide, the tax to GDP ratio is not really much higher than what we have. But what they do have is they have a much wider tax net. And that is something we've been talking about for many, many years, and that is something I think comes across, that we cannot just go on going after the same people, whether it is for VAT, whether it is for taxes. It discourages and new taxes coming under the taxpayers coming under the net. Too many taxes, tax laws are complicated. Could not agree more. Whether it's SMEs, whether it's enterprises, 76% of Bangladeshis of the SMEs surveyed feel that the VAT development is burdensome for their businesses. 90% of the SMEs disagree that tax stuff are fair. These are, of course, perception issues. We know nobody likes the tax man, unfortunately. It's a global phenomenon. But I'm sure there is some basis for this, and we need to look at how we can become more user-friendly. And we have representatives here from the tax administration, I'm sure they will tell us. Majority do not face difficulty in getting VAT reform. I would really like to challenge that one. I don't know where you came up with that one. I think that's completely preposterous. Bangladeshis face getting any kind of money back from the government, and I don't know where that came from, so I would really like to see the data on that. Procedure of land acquisition is complex. We know that. High cost of land acquisition, we know that. Some specific things, to give you an example. If you talk about, how these laws can be cumbersome and in fact detrimental to business growth, we have something called a minimum tax, section 16 CCC. Okay? It says that businessmen have to pay minimum income tax of 0.3% of their gross receipts. Gross receipts. I thought it was an income tax. Why are we paying money on our sales proceeds? Receipts do not equate to income or profit. So these kind of things really are detrimental to small and medium sector enterprises more than they are, but they're detrimental in general to people wanting to pay tax. Another favorite example, and you'll forgive me if some of you have heard this before, the tax authorities in Bangladesh do not believe that gross profits can ever go down. Try submitting a return saying gross profit has gone down. Not acceptable. It's ridiculous. If gross profits never went down, none of you would be in CPD or in government. We would all be in business. So these are the kind of things that we need to change if you really want people to come under the tax net. The tax on distributors. Here's another brilliant example. Section 53E2 of Income Tax Ordinance 1984 says that manufacturers are required to withhold 3% income tax from distributors on the difference between retail price and the price at which goods are sold by manufacturers to distributors. Each distributor has a different level of cost, different level of price, different level of overhead. How can you just generalize like this? The distributor for BAT in Bangladesh is highly profitable. The distributor for packaged food is very low profit margin but very high volume. You need to take away this kind of arbitrary treatment. So these were just some of the facts that I thought I would bring about. Incentivizing good behavior is something that we talk about a lot. And we believe that there is going to be some sort of facility where people who submit tax returns early, income tax returns early, are going to get an incentive. And I think instead of just negative behavior and going after punitive behavior, we also need to have positive behavior. If somebody is to submit their tax returns 60 days early, can they get a 5% break on their tax? Why don't we have proposals like we never hear proposals like this. In terms of connectivity, and this is something in general across both the papers, we see that the SMEs are not really being able to connect with the larger sector enterprises. And a major problem is the bonded warehouse. And I was expecting Hasanbhai to raise this because I know he talks about the anti-export bias. One of the successes in China and India has been the ability to connect the SMEs with the LSEs, both for local as well as for export. But if LSEs have access to duty-free inputs and the local firms do not even have VAT registration, how do we send those raw materials out to the SMEs to convert those materials and send it back to us? India has innovated this. I would really request us to look into this. Second paper, Mr. Taufik, the definition of, excuse me, large enterprise of SMEs, this is something we struggle with. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it. I think a major point here is about that more than 50% SMEs have capital investment below 5 lakhs. A big factor here is also service industry and the emerging importance of services in our economy. And it's not, as I couldn't agree more with Hasanbhai, that we can't just look at number of employees anymore. We need to expand the dialogue beyond that. We need to look at the turnover. We need to look at what kind of business they are. 66.5% SMEs got access to formal commercial loans. Very interesting, because we keep hearing about how the biggest problem is they don't have access to money. But here we're seeing that they do. 96% pay some sort of tax. Not sure if they pay full taxes. But the compliance cost is too high, with all due respect, not just for SMEs, for everybody. Let's look at the figures. 70% of firms are not willing to go for formal registration. If you have to pay, and this is from the survey, 3,000 taka for an average VAT median of 19,000 taka, that's more than VAT. That's 16%. So you are supposed to pay 15% VAT, but paying the VAT costs you 16%. Do we really think that small and medium enterprises are going to be incentivized to pay more VAT? 47% of the SMEs said they got exemption only on VAT through package VAT, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. Interesting how there was very little feedback on income tax, and that is again a problem that we have. We need to have income tax as a larger portion. This over-focus on only the VAT is not conducive to business growth. The VAT rate of 15% is too high. I think Bangladesh can really start to look at least sectorally or somewhere, and Hasan Mansoor is the expert here, on what we can do with this rate, because maybe it is a disincentive. Discontinuation of the package VAT, given that it earned us only 50 crores last year, is something that we need to talk about. The power to freeze tax debtor accounts, perfect way of killing the golden goose. You don't even leave us the option, the small and medium price. They get into a disagreement or into a claim with the VAT authorities, and you shut their accounts down. If you freeze off money to a business, you've effectively killed that business. You have no chance, and hence you have this backlog of thousands and hundreds of thousands of cases, which will never be settled, and is clogging our justice system. Property tax, almost irrelevant for SME development. It's interesting. Let me give you a real-life example, how silly this is. If our factory buildings actually have a paint coat on it, as opposed to unpainted, the property tax is higher. Now, we are supposed to be moving toward compliance, which means if we leave our factories unfinished, it's actually cheaper from a property tax point of view. I faced this yesterday in one of our factories. VAT is an accounts-based system. In conclusion, and I know Chairman Sir is very tight on time, so I'm going to stop right now. Two things. One is we mentioned in the opening statement, the Chairman mentioned about the SME exchange in India. I'd like to share that there is something called the shared transfer system for SMEs in China called the New Third Board. I'd encourage you to look at it, how SMEs can actually be brought together and to move as a larger cluster so that their bargaining power and their tax paying ability increases. Thank you, sir. I'm done.
Thank you, Naseem, for your very valuable comments. I'm sure that these are very practical comments and will be taken into account by the tax authorities. Ladies and gentlemen, we now go for an open discussion. The time that was originally allocated was 1 hour, but I don't think we can provide 1 hour's time because we started late. So my intention is to limit the number of speakers to 10. with 4 to 5 minutes each. Certainly not more than 5 minutes.
So I will take 1 minute only.
You come in the first 10 then. But first I would like to call upon Begum Akhtar Jahan, Honorable Member of the Parliament, to hear her views on these issues that have been raised. Madam,
No comment.
You have no comment?
No comment.
There are no comments.
আপনি বলতে চান না কিছু?
চাইলে কিন্তু পরে বলতে পারে না। I would like to say after some time.
The next one that
Sir, Ranjan Kumar Bhaumik.
Mr. Ranjan Kumar Bhaumik, Director
Yes.
General,
BCS Tax Academy from India. Thank you, sir. Thank you to presenter also. And I will take only 1 minute, sir. Only one point is here. That is compliance cost. Again and again, the topics came that compliance cost is higher. But I think that compliance cost is reducing in our country, and the mechanism of reducing it, one is tax fare. You know better the tax fare in Bangladesh every year for 7 days all over the world. It is one part of tax education also. This is number one. And another is tax e-filing, return filing through electronic method and e-payment. It's coming. Hopefully from 1st July of 2015 it's coming. And you also know that there is a tax calculator free software in our website. Anybody can use it. And these are the media, and actually tax education is needed in both sides, that from the taxpayer and from the tax collector. Both tax education is needed. Another thing, like VAT, direct tax code, we are working with direct tax code. Another tax law is coming, the present income tax ordinance 1984, just it will replace it. So another, you say that the SME, and you know that up to 50 lakh, if turnover or gross receipt is up to 50 lakh, then minimum tax is not applicable for SME. And another is that
already 2 minutes over.
now only one thing, that up to 30 lakh SME no tax in our country. As per our law, up to 30 lakh turnover, no tax, they are tax free. These are the positive side what I should want to say. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
The next speaker that I have is Mr. S.M. Firdaus Hossain, Deputy General Manager, Bangladesh Bank. Mr. Firdaus Hossain? He's not here? Oh, his card is here, he wanted to speak. Acha. Next is Mr. M.S. Siddiqui, author and columnist.
Assalamu alaikum. I came here to learn something. I thought that I should see the comparison of law, rules and regulation of in this region. But I saw that the study is on perception basis, on rules, regulation and others. Okay. Yeah, so it's informative, no doubt. But the data what I saw is confusing to me, what I understand from the practical field. Anyway, the second part of the presentation, I saw that the comments is like that the SMEs are paying their income tax on personal file, definitely, because most of the companies, majority of the companies are not really registered as limited in joint stock. So when the company is a proprietorship company or even a partnership company, they are paying tax on the basis of their personal file. So it's okay, it's not contradictory information. And the surprising some information here, you say that the SMEs took on an average 5.5 years to become VAT registered after their inception. It's a threshold, I think you wanted to mean that. But if you, I don't know, the information is confusing to me. If you say that, it's not possible. And also if you say that, and even if you talk about the automation, there is an online system of registration in our country it is another information. Nobody can register. I tried myself. I could not register myself as a VAT, online VAT registration. There are some people, they help the businessmen to register online. So it is, in fact, nobody can register as a VAT payer within 10 years, 20 years, if you don't pay something. So when you talk about the compliance cost, 3,000 to something 20,000, is it the cost of record maintenance and the and staff's salaries and others, or additional other unofficial cost? So it should be clear, mentioned very clearly, because it's very important. When you talk about the people want the fixed rate of tax, even the VAT, it is a, Dr. Mansur was criticizing the method, because people don't want to see the VAT official or tax official chasing them, so they want to avoid them. They are prepared to pay fixed tax. So don't come to me, I am ready to pay something to you and something to the national exchequer. That is the philosophy of that rule. So that's why this distortion came into this existing law. The business people is opposing the new law because there is no trade, there will be no fixed VAT, and also there will be no advance trade VAT. I know that there is no advance trade VAT fixed, but we are following this VAT rule. That will go, that's why we are afraid of this new law. When you talk about there is interesting information. The official land price, they adjust the price. Actually, it is the interesting point of the property tax in our country. It is an official procedure of money laundering and evading tax in our country. Because when there is a transfer of property, there is they ask the taxpayer that, okay, you don't have even income tax registration, okay, you come, whatever you pay, we don't mind. There are a fixed amount in Gulshan area for Bailey Road or Dhanmondi or Farmgate. There is a fixed rate maintained by the income tax department. They will ask for the tax and they will give a new income tax registration number. And they will ask to pay some tax, then they will register and regularize the payment. Whatever be the payment, actual payment. So it is a crime officially approved by NBR or the government. So it should be eliminated. Oh, okay, sir, thank you.
Not as an SME entrepreneur. Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Alison Subrata Baroy.
I'm Alison Subrata Baroy from Sushashoner Jana Prashar Abhijan in English Campaign for Good Governance. We have been working last 3 years on the tax issues, particularly on tax justice. So firstly, I would like to say thank you for the very informative and the great initiative done by Guinea and the partners CPD. Just I would like to one comments, because the objective I actually gone through, there is a very linked with the women enterprise and women leadership, but we didn't find another women perspective analysis in the paper, and it would be nice if we can see some of the representative from the women chambers of commerce, because there are many small and medium enterprise actually run by the women. So that part actually maybe somehow we didn't see in the research part. So I would like to suggest the researcher so that they can include in the part, because we had some experiences to talk with the women chambers of commerce. They did a study on women's small and enterprises regarding the VAT and tax issues. So how they can link in that perspective. Also we need to know, because the numbers of sample has been selected, but we need to know how many numbers been selected, the SME led by the women, and so we need to have a kind of disaggregated data in gender perspective. So that is important, we feel that. Thank you very much.
Someone like to answer why there's not much information about women entrepreneurs? Would you like to do it now or later?
We'll bring our Indian colleague.
That's all. That's the last one. I can't take any more. Okay, then the answer will be given at the end of.
জি, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমি যদি একটু অ্যালাউ করেন আমি একটু বাংলায় বলি। জি, আমার প্রথম প্রশ্ন হলো বিজনেস ডেভেলপমেন্ট রিলেটেড আজকের আলোচনা। বিজনেস ডেভেলপমেন্টের সাথে ট্যাক্স ভ্যাট ইজ ইট কস্ট? অফকোর্স নট। দিস ইজ দ্য ট্রান্সফার টু দ্য কনজিউমার। বিজনেসম্যান সেটা কালেক্ট করবে, পেমেন্ট দিবে। দিস ইজ দ্য নট অ্যাট অল, বাট তার সাথে রিলেটেড হলো কি কমপ্লায়েন্স, দ্যাট মে বি দ্য ওয়ান ইস্যু বাট নট দ্য ইম্পর্টেন্ট ইস্যু। সেকেন্ড পয়েন্ট হলো বিজনেস ডেভেলপমেন্টের সাথে ডাইরেক্টলি রিলেটেড ইনকাম ট্যাক্স, যেটা আমি আই এম ভেরি গ্রেটফুল টু মিস্টার সৈয়দ মঞ্জুর, উনি রাইটলি ইন্ট্রোডিউস করছেন। ইনকাম ট্যাক্সের বিজনেস ডেভেলপমেন্টের সাথে যেগুলো ডাইরেক্টলি রিলেটেড সেটা হলো ইনকাম ট্যাক্স, আর ইনডাইরেক্ট ট্যাক্স রিলেটস উইথ দ্য কনজিউমার। হিয়ার উই মেইনলি ডেভেলপমেন্টের সাথে ডাইরেক্ট ট্যাক্স, এবং ডাইরেক্ট ট্যাক্সের একটা বড় অংশ হলো ইনকাম ট্যাক্স। আমার সাথে এইখানে আরেকটা পয়েন্ট আমি ভ্যাটের সাথে আলোচনায় দেখছি, সেলফ অ্যাসেসমেন্ট। ইজ ইট পসিবল সেলফ অ্যাসেসমেন্ট ভ্যাটে? অফকোর্স নট, কারণ বিকজ ভ্যাটে প্রতি মাসে একটা রিটার্ন দিতে হবে এবং ভ্যাট পেমেন্ট দিতে হবে, এর সাথে কোনো অ্যাসেসমেন্টের কোনো সম্পর্ক নেই। অ্যাসেসমেন্ট মিনস অডিট হওয়া, অডিটটা আলাদা ব্যাপার, বাট সেলফ অ্যাসেসমেন্ট ভ্যাটে কিছু নাই। দ্যাট ইজ মাই ধারণা। আচ্ছা, অ্যানাদার পয়েন্ট হলো আপনার হলো যেটা ইনকাম ডাইরেক্ট ট্যাক্স। ডাইরেক্ট ট্যাক্সের সাথে রাইটলি বলছেন বাংলাদেশে ইনকাম ট্যাক্সের দুইটা সেকশন আছে, 16CCC, যেটা অফকোর্স ইজ এ ব্যাড ল। সেকেন্ড পয়েন্ট ইজ 82C। 82C ইজ এ সেলফ অ্যাসেসমেন্ট। আমার প্রশ্ন হলো বিজনেসের জন্য যে ব্যালেন্স শিটটা বানানো হয় সেই ব্যালেন্স শিটটা হলো অ্যাকচুয়াল পজিশনের রিফ্লেকশন হয়, বাট ইনকাম ট্যাক্স অথরিটি ওনাদের রেভিনিউর স্বার্থে ওনারা বলতেছেন ফাইনাল সেটেলমেন্ট। ট্যাক্স ফাইনাল যখনই ফাইনাল সেটেলমেন্ট হবে তখন এটা হবে ফিক্সড একটা পোর্শন। ফিক্সড যখনই ফিক্সড হয়ে যাবে তখন অন্যান্য ইনকাম এন্ড এক্সপেন্ডিচার ব্যালেন্স শিটের বাকিগুলো হয়ে যাবে অ্যাডজাস্টমেন্ট। দ্যাট শুড নট বি। এই যে একটা অবস্থা, বাংলাদেশের সিভিল সোসাইটির জন্য সিভিল ল দরকার। আমার টার্নওভার ট্যাক্স কোন অবস্থাতেই বিজনেসম্যানের উপর হইতে পারে না অ্যাজ এ ট্যাক্স। হ্যাঁ, ট্যাক্স হইতে পারে বাট নট ইনকাম ট্যাক্স। প্রপার্টি ট্যাক্সও সেম কেস, বিজনেসের সাথে রিলেটেড না, এটা ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালের সাথে রিলেটেড। সুতরাং এই রিলেটেড ম্যাটারটুকু আমার কাছে আমার একটু কনসেপ্ট আমার নিজের জন্য জানা দরকার যে সেলফ অ্যাসেসমেন্ট অ্যান্ড ভ্যাট, ইজ ইট দ্য কস্ট অফ দ্য প্রোডাকশন? অফকোর্স নট, বিকজ দিস ইজ এ ট্রান্সফারিং দ্য সিস্টেম। সেখানে একটাই শুধু সমস্যা, সেটা হলো আমাদের বর্তমানে কমপ্লায়েন্স। ইনকাম ট্যাক্স অথরিটি বা ভ্যাট অথরিটির সাথে আমাদের যে বিজনেসম্যানের রিলেশনটা, সেখানে একটা কমপ্লায়েন্সের প্রশ্নে একটা সাংঘাতিক রকমের গ্যাপ। সেটা হলো প্রথম হলো সে মনে করি ইনকাম ট্যাক্স অ্যাসেসমেন্টের সময় ইনকাম ট্যাক্স যে রিটার্নটা সাবমিট করা হয়, ইনকাম ট্যাক্স অথরিটি সেটা প্রথমেই রিজেক্ট করেন। রিজেক্ট করার প্রেক্ষিতে কি হয়, রাইটলি মেনশন করছেন আনডিসক্লোজ মানি। দিস আনডিসক্লোজ মানির সৃষ্টি হয় এবং সেটা একটা মেজর প্রবলেম ফর আওয়ার সোসাইটি। আনডিসক্লোজ মানি, অনেকগুলো কারণ আনডিসক্লোজ মানির জন্য। জি, সুতরাং আমি যে আমার বক্তব্য হলো বিজনেস ডেভেলপমেন্টের সাথে আপনার ডাইরেক্ট ট্যাক্স রিলেটেড এবং সেইটার আমাদেরকে অ্যাড্রেস করতে হবে। জি, থ্যাংক ইউ।
The next speaker will be Mr. Conducive, National Institute of Public Finance and Policy in India. Is it going to be through Skype?
Kaushik, you can hear us? Yes, you can start speaking. Kaushik, you can hear us? Can you hear us? Kaushik?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing fine.
Hello, Tawfiq.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Okay.
Yes.
So,
You have 5
when
minutes.
did I
Okay.
start? Now or later?
Yeah, now. Everyone is watching you and hearing you. And start talking about 5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes.
We can hear you, sir.
No. Speak now. Kaushik, can you hear us?
No worries, no worries.
Okay, so now I'm studying about our India part of study. We have done 200 sample enterprises, and I'm just now focusing on few important conclusions that emerges from this study. First point is based on tax exemptions. So actually, there is overwhelming response that micro, small and medium enterprises they don't believe that tax exemptions are useful mechanism for promoting their business. Because zero rating and tax exemption, there is a difference. I mean, in case of zero rating, you can have, input tax credit, but if you are availing tax exemptions, then you are out of the value chain. So that is the issue which has also been validated by the AII interviews. And instead there is a larger support for lower tax rates. They perceive that multiple taxes are there, and due to the huge taxes and multiple taxes, for which compliance cost has gone high. But data shows compliance cost as a percent of their annual turnover is around 1% or even less than 1%, so which is not at all high. But at the same time, they have some other priorities in their mind, like they have to purchase land or something like that, so they have to run their business on their own setup. So in that kind of issue, they need capital. So for that case, they perceive that compliance cost is very high, which is not at all very high. So this is one point, and another point is property tax. Property tax in case of India does not emerge to be an important issue in this in the Indian context. And cost of land and land issue is the severe issue which has appeared in the case of study. Land issue means in case of corruption or
Lost you.
Okay. So I think we can
be online. Yeah, he's gone.
hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So land issue is the final and biggest challenge in case of India. There are huge rampant corruption is there. Land acquisition process is also involved high cost, and due to all these issues, the production and cost of production goes high. So and they are not availing tax exemptions. They are paying a lot of taxes. So in due course, they perceive their compliance cost is very high. So their business, they are not being able to compete with China and etc. So these are the major issues that has appeared in our study. VAT also, many enterprises are giving VAT. Out of 200 enterprises, 180 firms are paying VAT, and around 190 firms are paying property taxes, but they perceive that property tax is not at all high and not affecting their business. So these are the basic and key issues that have emerged from our study. So I am concluding here. Now I would be happy to take your comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Kaushik.
We must
I am not
for
we need to hear your comments.
Okay, now next speaker will be Mr. Farah Farooq. Miss
Farah Farooq,
Farooq, Commercial Counselor, High Commissioner for Pakistan.
And I also happen to be from the Customs Service of Pakistan and have worked in, the various offices, including on the income tax and VAT side. So I mean, I have a mix of comments to make. Firstly, I must say to CPT that I have been attending your sessions with keen interest, knowing that there's a lot of information one could get, and they're very educating too. The reason why I made sure that I should be attending this program is that I really needed to know that where the taxation South Asian countries are at the moment. But somehow my request to Ginny is that if you could have incorporated the current taxation policies towards SME enterprise development, what kind of reforms have been introduced and since when. I mean, I'm not getting the picture of what is the VAT structure, what is the income tax structure, what are the property tax laws in of the 7-8 countries, enabling me to see if we have leave aside the perception of the taxpayers, if we need to learn from each other, so how can we move forward? And because I would be going back to my country, back to my department, so as a senior level taxation officer, I would be looking forward to this kind of study or scope undertaken. The other thing is that it's always been a pain for the taxpayers to pay the taxes. So this is where the perceptions have been mistaken most of the time. No doubt that the taxation structure do not really corroborate to the needs of the taxpayers, and it's not user friendly, and somehow we are still struggling between the rates. What should be the taxation rate, whether we should be going for direct taxes, whether we should be going for indirect taxes in the South Asian context. Somehow the state is not the social welfare state, or it is not delivering services to the people. That's where there is always a disgruntlement and there's always a divide. So I think whenever we are having a talk like this, we need to really try to bridge or address these issues, that if tax collectors are supposed to be user friendly or not, where people are even prone to bribe the tax collectors because they also don't want to pay the taxes. So the evasion or avoidance apart, the easy getaway sort of attitude in this part of the world is kind of predominant, which is always a problem for the tax collectors to really see where the tax policies are really not delivering. So I would have, my another suggestion or observation is that this tax perception, this survey you have conducted should have incorporated certain tax collectors' viewpoint on the policies which they are implementing or executing, to give a little more fair or more, kind of impartial kind of idea to what the real situation on ground is. And these days I'm working on a SME promotion program, which I have conceived from the High Commission. So from that point of view, the point raised by this gentleman here, that we really need to involve certain SME sector people in this kind of dialogue to really get to know that what are the real problems they are facing. I'm sorry, Mr. Asan Mansoor, you're very right on your observation regarding that, the number of the employees should not be part of the scope of the turnover and for the VAT imposition and all that. But however, I am in touch with one SME sector female who's working from some getting a consultant from Netherlands here in Bangladesh. She makes jute diversified products, and just interacting with her, she was telling me that the consultant is trying to put in place for her the system whereby even the salaries she's paying to the in-house 10 or 20 employees she's having to make or assist her in making her product. So, or even if she has to make any salary payment, whether it is through a bank account or something. So these things practically are being faced by these people, and we need to kind of see how best we can train and educate our SME sector in this part of the world, how to put in place some kind of accounting system, because one way or the other, this is how the government or the tax collecting authorities will be able to have a trust in the self-assessment scheme, because at the end of the day, we have seen that, if we are not really educating our people to use strong accounting systems, having a more automated kind of payment system to the staff or to the payments they are making, anywhere through a banking system. So that also reflect where the money is going, how much they are generating. So these are my few observations and comments, and this should be, I'm looking forward to another session whereby, few of the concerns which have been raised by each one of us could be addressed or incorporated to get to see the results and, meaningful translation into the tax policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah, for your very interesting comments and very practical issues which you have raised. Begum Akhtar Jahan, would you kindly like to come in now?
To say in Bengali. সম্মানিত সভাপতি এবং মঞ্চে উপবিষ্ট অতিথিবৃন্দ এবং অংশগ্রহণকারী ভাই এবং বোনেরা, আজকে এখানে আজকের এই রিজিওনাল ডায়ালগ এই অনুষ্ঠানে উপস্থিত হয়ে আমি একটু বিশেষ অভিজ্ঞতা অর্জন করেছি, কারণ এই ধরনের এই ধরনের বৈঠকে, এই ধরনের আলোচনায় প্রথম আমার আসা। আর এ বিষয়ে আমি বলতে চাই যে আমাদের বর্তমান সরকার সাধারণত আমাদের একটা লক্ষ্য সামনে রেখে 2021 সালে এ দেশকে একটি সুখী সমৃদ্ধ শিক্ষা সংস্কৃতি জ্ঞান বিজ্ঞান তথ্য প্রযুক্তিতে অগ্রসর ডিজিটাল বাংলাদেশে গড়ে তোলার জন্য কাজ করছেন। এবং এটা আমি এই লক্ষ্য অর্জনে সবচেয়ে বেশি প্রয়োজন, যে কোনো দেশের উন্নয়নের জন্য প্রয়োজন অর্থ, আর অর্থের মূল উৎস হচ্ছে কর। সেই আমাদের দেশের জাতীয় রাজস্ব বোর্ড এই কর সম্পর্কিত কার্যক্রম পরিচালনা করে থাকে। এবং আজকে আমরা দেখছি যে আমাদের জাতীয় রাজস্ব বোর্ড আয়কর, মূল্য সংযোজন কর এবং শুল্ক আদায়ের লক্ষ্যমাত্রা নিয়ে রাজস্ব আহরণের ক্ষেত্রে যথেষ্ট সাফল্য অর্জন করেছে। 2009 থেকে 10 এবং 11 থেকে 12 অর্থ বছরে গড়ে প্রায় 26% হারে রাজস্ব আদায়ের প্রবৃদ্ধি অর্জিত হয়েছে, এবং এই 3 বছরের কর জিডিপি অনুপাত 8.2 থেকে বৃদ্ধি পেয়ে 10.6 উন্নীত হয়েছে। এ বিষয়ে এই বর্তমান সরকার 11 থেকে 16 সালের মধ্যে 11 থেকে 16 সাল পর্যন্ত একটি পরিকল্পনা গ্রহণ করেছে। এই কর বিষয়ে আধুনিক পরিকল্পনা গ্রহণ করেছে। 2016 সালের মধ্যে কর জিডিপি আনুপাতিক হারে 13% উন্নীত করা, এবং যেটা একটা দ্বিতীয় হচ্ছে যে 16 সালের মধ্যে অনলাইনের মাধ্যমে আয়কর রিটার্ন দাখিল, আয়কর প্রদান, ফেরত পদ্ধতি এবং অত্যাধুনিক সুবিধা প্রদানের মাধ্যমে করদাতাদের জন্য উন্নত প্রযুক্তি সমৃদ্ধ সুবিধা নিশ্চিত করা। তৃতীয়ত হচ্ছে যে বিকল্প বিরোধ নিষ্পত্তি পদ্ধতি বাস্তবায়নের মাধ্যমে আদালতে নিষ্পত্তি অপেক্ষমান মামলার সংখ্যা 2016 সালের মধ্যে 80% হ্রাস করা। এবং আমি মনে করি যে একটা আর্থসামাজিক উন্নয়নে প্রত্যক্ষ করের ভূমিকা অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। শুধু তাই না, আমরা মনে করি যে বিশ্বমান এবং বাণিজ্য উদারীকরণের ফলে আমদানি নির্ভর রাজস্ব ক্রমান্বয়ে হ্রাস পায় আভ্যন্তরীণ রাজস্ব আহরণের উৎস হিসেবেও আয়করের গুরুত্ব অনস্বীকার্য। এবং বর্তমান সরকার আয়কর বিভাগের কর নীতি এবং কর প্রশাসনে উল্লেখযোগ্য অনেক সংস্কার সাধন করেছে এবং যার ফল পাওয়া যাচ্ছে এবং আয়কর আহরণের রেকর্ড সৃষ্টি হয়েছে। আয়ের 2021 সালের মধ্যে আয়ের দেশের মর্যাদা অর্জন এবং মধ্যম আয়ের দেশের মর্যাদা অর্জন, ডিজিটাল বাংলাদেশ বাস্তবায়ন এবং দারিদ্র্য হ্রাস, অর্থনৈতিক পরনির্ভরশীলতা কমানো সব কিছুর যে রূপকল্প তা সফলভাবে এগিয়ে নেওয়ার জন্য এবং এটা বাস্তবায়নের জন্য বর্তমান সরকার কাজ করছে। আমি মনে করি যে এই কর পদ্ধতি এটা একটা বিশদ বিষয় এবং যে সরকার যে লক্ষ্য নিয়ে কাজ করছে মানুষের জনগণ আমাদের অনেক বিষয়ে সিদ্ধান্ত সরকারের রয়েছে এবং নারী শিক্ষা কারিগরি শিক্ষাকে উৎসাহ প্রদানের জন্য সরকার অনুমোদিত স্কুল কলেজ এবং ভোকেশনাল ট্রেনিং ইনস্টিটিউশনে প্রদত্ত অনুদান সম্পূর্ণ করমুক্ত করার একটা লক্ষ্যে কাজ করছেন। কৃষি শিল্প বিজ্ঞান প্রযুক্তি বিষয়ক গবেষণা উন্নয়ন কাজে নিয়োজিত জাতীয় পর্যায়ের প্রতিষ্ঠান ব্যাংকিং চ্যানেল প্রদত্ত যে কোনো দানকে করমুক্ত করা, এইভাবে দেশের অনগ্রসর অঞ্চলসমূহে ব্যাপক কর্মসংস্থান সৃষ্টির লক্ষ্যে উৎপাদনমুখী শিল্প প্রতিষ্ঠানকে কর রেয়াত সুবিধা প্রদান করা, অনুরূপভাবে অনেক অনেক বিষয়কে সামনে রেখে বর্তমান সরকার কাজ করে যাচ্ছেন এবং আশা করি যে এই সমস্ত বিষয়গুলো আমাদের সাধারণ মানুষ এবং ব্যবসায়ী সহ সর্বস্তরের মানুষের জন্য এটা কল্যাণকর হবে এবং আমরা 2021 সালের মধ্যে এই সকল বিষয়গুলো যে সমস্যাগুলো আছে ব্যবসার ক্ষেত্রে এবং অন্যান্য ক্ষেত্রে এখানে আলোচনা হয়েছে এসএমই লোন এসএমই ইন্ডাস্ট্রি সকল বিষয় যে সমস্যাগুলো অতিক্রম করে আমরা 2021 সালের মধ্যে একটি সুন্দর সব ক্ষেত্রে শিক্ষা ব্যবসা এবং অন্যান্য সকল ক্ষেত্রে আমরা একটা সুখী সমৃদ্ধ বাংলাদেশ হিসাবে আমরা গড়ে তুলতে পারবো এবং বিশ্ববাসীর কাছে এটা একটা অনেক সম্মানের একটি মর্যাদাকর জাতি হিসেবে আমরা প্রতিষ্ঠিত হতে পারবো। এই বিষয়ে আমি আমার মতামত ব্যক্ত করছি। ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।
ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে আপনার মূল্যবান মন্তব্যের জন্য। আপনি যেটা বলেছেন যে আমাদের 2021 সাল পর্যন্ত যেটা প্রাক্কলন করা হয়েছে সেটা কিন্তু নির্ভর করবে বিনিয়োগের উপর এবং প্রবৃদ্ধির হার বৃদ্ধির উপর এবং বিনিয়োগ করতে গেলে ট্যাক্স কালেকশন করতে হবে। তাই সেটার সঙ্গে আপনি যে কতগুলো কর রেয়াতের কথা বলেছেন ঠিক একসঙ্গে যায় না আর কি, এটা আমি বলতে যাচ্ছিলাম। আর যেটা হচ্ছে যে ট্যাক্স ডিসপিউট রেজলিউশন সেটাও কিন্তু একটা অত্যন্ত মূল্যবান জিনিস, কারণ এখানে অনেক কোটি হাজার হাজার কোটি টাকা আটকে আছে। আমি আশা করি যে আপনি সরকারের পক্ষ থেকে পার্লামেন্টের প্রশ্নগুলো আবার তুলবেন, তাহলে হয়তো কিছুটা আমাদের জন্য সাহায্য হতে পারে আর কি। অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did not really expect to be a participant in the discussions. I came here essentially to listen and to learn a little more details about the tax regimes in South Asian countries. So from that perspective, I have benefited to some extent, but I am afraid there are areas where I feel that I have not got what I was looking for. But leaving that aside, I would make a few general comments. First of all, in Bangladesh, tax GDP ratio is one of the lowest in the world, the lowest in South Asia.
and therefore one can hardly say that tax burden is a disincentive for investment or growth. Now also my exposure to impact of fiscal incentives on investment tells me that fiscal incentives play a minor role in investment. What matters more are the other considerations such as access to land, the quality and reliability of infrastructure, access to finance, political stability, the transparency in administering regulations and so on. So now if that is so, then I'm more or less sanguine that the present tax regime in Bangladesh in itself is not a serious impediment to investment and growth. But nevertheless, in the context of the small and medium enterprises, I have a few suggestions to offer. Firstly, I think time has come for us to adopt a common definition of SMEs across all registering authorities. Now, we know that there are many registering authorities, VAT registration authority, the property tax, for the purpose of property tax, the municipalities register. There is the register of joint stock companies who also register companies, and so on and so forth. So if we can whether or not we can apply a uniform definition and obviously based on the value of turnover, as Dr. Ahsan Mansoor has mentioned. Now, the second thing is that we need coordination across various or among various registration authorities, because that can help us reduce the incidence of avoidance or evasion of taxes. Because if an entity is registered with the register of joint stock companies but not registered with the NBR for the purpose of VAT, if there is coordination and cooperation among the various authorities, then these sort of cases can be detected and appropriate action may be taken to realize the requisite taxes. Then I think I agree with Naseem Manzoor that for the purpose of development of SMEs, what we need most is a link up between the small and medium enterprises and the larger enterprises. Because the larger enterprises can firstly, of course, ensure market for the products of the SMEs, because they would be the purchasers of the SME outputs. Secondly, they can help with the technology. So that sort of link up is very important. Again, my understanding is, say, for example, in the case of Toyota company in Japan, there are thousands of enterprises, small enterprises, who are providing inputs to Toyota. And those enterprises left on their own probably would not be able to exist or survive. So that's sort of how we can establish that sort of linkage, and does the tax regime create a problem for that kind of linkage, then that should be taken care of. Now, another point is that as Ahsan Mansoor has mentioned, VAT is an account-based system, but it is also an input credit-based system, that you have to provide credit for any VAT that you have paid on the inputs. Now that kind of accounting, how much it is it actually in practice? We could not even enforce the electronic cash register system as yet. So how to encourage more regular account keeping by various enterprises? I think that's very important. Now, in this context, I'm not sure whether the surveys that were conducted, whether they dealt with only production enterprises or also trading enterprises. Now, Production enterprises probably do keep some records of accounts, but trading enterprises, many of them hardly keep any records of their accounts, of even the turnover. I mean, they know in their mind, they might have even some books of their own, but to what extent these are open to public inspection is a serious question. And so we need both educational campaign for this purpose, and also if the cooperation among various registration authorities is improved, then probably we can detect those who are not maintaining any accounts and encourage them to pay taxes. Now, my final comment is that I think there is a case for reducing tax rates in Bangladesh, both for value-added tax. I think I did mention in another seminar organized by CPT that the value-added tax rate should be made uniform, but the rate should be lower. And for the corporate tax rate also, I feel that the present, I'm finishing in half a minute. I think the present unlisted company tax rate, 37.5%, is rather too high. That should be reduced. 37, it has been reduced to 35, right. That's probably too high. So with those few words, I'm sorry that I was not really prepared to make any comments, so I might have been somewhat incoherent. Thank you.
Thank you, Aziz, for your very wise comments, and I'm very happy to see your optimistic note that the present tax regime will help to raise the tax GDP ratio in the coming years. That's I welcome that point of view. The next one I invite is Mr. Manzoor Ahmad of BCCI.
Sir, thank you very much. I need, I think, 3 times because I'm sorry. I'll be trying to be as short as possible, but the subjects I need to deal is very vast. Firstly, I agree with our honorable member of parliament that reducing tax is the primary way of increasing tax. That is the tax modality. Reducing tax rate
if you have something
and
new.
increasing, but that is what we need, sir. That is for our satisfaction. We are saying that by reducing the rate and expanding the network is the universal way of increasing tax revenue. Coming from there, sir, I agree with our honorable Dr. Aziz that I wanted to know about the entire tax regime of the countries, but it fell short. It covered only some VAT and property. I will concentrate on VAT, but you left out a major segment of tax law, that is custom duty. Customs duty affects each and every sector of business, including SMEs. Some of the essential industrial inputs are taxed at 25% rate at the same level as its finished goods. How come the consumer items manufactured by SMEs can compete with the imported items on those rate of custom duty? And about the role of BCCI in determining, in analyzing the cost and development economy is that we have three core members of business community affiliated with FBCCI through different chambers and associations. And in forming every policy, we get input from them, direct data input, not a perceptive analysis. We cannot depend on percept. The gentlemen sitting beside me are regularly engaged in analyzing data collected from various chambers and associations 12 months a year and putting this up to the government for redress. In our annual budget presentation, which is going to be made on May 12, we are putting up 450 plus recommendations highlighting the anomalies in tax system. That should have been the basis of your study. And CPD would have done a great job if a little slot of 20 minutes could have been provided to our Mr. Khalek to highlight what we have got direct database analysis on tax.
Other opportunities, yeah,
Coming
for
back
that.
to VAT, the VAT affects every hour a day. There are some huge gap between the perception of high-profile ex-officio thinkers and the VAT practitioners. I am dealing with VAT since 1991. 6 hours a day I have to study. I have studied all the VAT regime in the world, and there is hardly any single read. There is hardly any VAT regime in the world of any repute which has a single rate of VAT. So multiple rate of VAT is a universal phenomena. In France, there are 4 multiple rate of VAT. In China, in India, in subcontinent region, there are several ways of multiple rate. Why? If you go through VAT regime, you will see that they have special packages for SMEs with investment, heavy investment buyers. They have a special package for those entrepreneurs. Even in Vietnam, in China, in India, in Pakistan, name any country, they have a special provision for SMEs. Threshold or not, beyond threshold. Who are the most competing country? India, China, Pakistan, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia. These are the countries most competitive with us. They have all thresholds, special thresholds for SMEs. So, IMF has great say in our tax tariff reform. We welcome their packages to enhance our administrative capacity, but in the substantive content of the law, they cannot interfere. They are interfering, they are asking us, you cannot have a multiple rate of VAT. They are not saying it in India, which has more than 30 rate of VAT. In China, so why disturbing Bangladesh only? In Europe, they have a lot of multiple rate of VAT. They have no single word on IMF on you. Why poor Bangladesh, sir? So, what I suppose is, I'm not talking nonsense perhaps, but there are certain other issues about tax evasion, sir. I will just complete within a minute. Tax evasion is a collusive practice. From the private sector, we regularly forward list of entrepreneurs who need to be registered under VAT or income tax. But in years together, from the directive of our president, we do that regularly, but they are not taken into official cognizance, and there is a collusive practice. Tax evasion is a collusive practice. So this needs to be resolved on a PPP basis. Government and FBCCI and all the private sector are working together on a PPP basis. We are reforming VAT law, we are reforming customs law, we are reforming company law, we are reforming import policy. So this is a partnership going on. This partnership should be truly effective, and CPD should take into cognizance all these stakeholders while preparing this sort of papers. Thank you.
We already had 10 speakers, and I understand that we have, I understand from the list given to me that Mr. Aminur Rahman, ex-member tax policy, Mr. Mujid, former NBR chairman, Mr. Kamran Rahman, you are originally from the Jute, I don't know where you are now. So, and Mr. Humayun Kabir, FCA. These 4 people will talk. But before that, I want to give an opportunity to Dr. Mizanur Rahman, University of Dhaka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You have only 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will try to finish it in 2 minutes. So let me come to the topic. I think there could be more emphasis on corporate tax regimes, and I'd like to share with the audience that right now the statutory corporate tax regime, it is varying between 27.5% to 45%. Specifically for banks and financial institutions, it is 42.5%. It is in the range of 40 to 45% for mobile and tobacco companies, and for other publicly listed companies, it is 27.5%. And for the unlisted companies, as Mijaz sir mentioned, it has been reduced from 37.5 to 35%. So there is a big inconsistency, incoherence in this structure. It is well known that the unlisted companies face little regulation and are largely non-transparent. A relative tax advantage, though exists for publicly traded companies in the non-financial sector, publicly traded banks and NBFIs are subject to a prohibitively high 42.5%, which is 7.5 percentage point higher than the unlisted companies. So everyone knows that the listed banks and NBFIs are subject to stricter regulations of the central bank, SEC, and stock exchange. A policy to tax them at 42.5% is inconsistent for promoting good corporate governance. Relative advantage for listing in a stock exchange is also diminished. It is an empirical regularity that the listing requires enhanced compliance with corporate laws and accounting regulations, and it also involves incremental cost, including information production cost and political cost. So the current fiscal policy is therefore not creating incentives for good governance and transparency in corporate businesses. My second point, I like to point out, among all the countries, in a recent study by Carter Institute, the divergence between statutory rate and effective corporate tax rate, it is the widest only in the case of Bangladesh. Effective corporate tax rate in Bangladesh is 14.5% only, and it is 33.6% in India, it is 34.6% in the United States. So this indicates...
Please, your 2 minutes are over.
So this indicates the chronic inefficiency and incapacity of the tax administration. So my point is that I think there is a scope, and this point is already highlighted by the participants' discussion. There is a scope for substantial cut in corporate taxes, and I like to differ with you, Chairman sir, that a reduction in corporate tax doesn't essentially reduce a lower tax revenue collection. It may rather enhance the government capacity to generate tax revenue. So with this note, I like to end my discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I forgot Mr. Abdul Haq, Chairman of the Japan-Bangladesh Association, Business Association. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Abdul Haq. Because your name was here, I forgot to.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Actually, I think, sir, in respect of SMEs, comparing the subcontinental phenomena, the terminology of the SMEs itself is in a grey condition in Bangladesh. But, for example, it was looked after by Minister of Industry before under the umbrella of BC, which is almost now almost abandoned. And there was another institution created, SME Foundation. I don't know how it is being linked, and therefore in Bangladesh SMEs are the terminology and the reality perhaps needs a total evolution and reformation. Then again, the taxes on the especially the VAT rate of VAT was suggested by our Mirza Sahab is actually Bangladesh VAT rate is very, very high, and this is a deterrence for the development of the SMEs in Bangladesh. We are trying to pursue government to reduce the VAT in Bangladesh. And land area, of course, Dr. Hasan Mansur was mentioning. Actually, earlier the land for the industries was for the tiny, small or kutir shilpo, it was called in BC, was allotted by the government at a subsidized rate to the entrepreneurs. But it is almost no more there. And now if people is to buy land from the commercial market or open market is very, very high, the rate, and it is also an impediment for development of industry. For example, in China and Vietnam, the lands that belong to the state, there is a big advantage for them. So they are creating big chunk of industrial parks and special economic zone specialized parks, technology park, etc., which is giving them a momentum for industrial development. And this is, for example, we have developed a Purvachal for residential area, but not an industrial park for the industries to come from the other countries. So this has, we can realize this is a very serious issue. And of course, I think, sir, 2 minutes is over. Thank you very much for giving me time.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul Haq. The next speaker will be Mr. Aminur Rahman. Then I will call upon Mr. Kamran T. Rahman. Then Mr. Humayun Kabir, and final word will be by Mr. Mujid, former chairman of the NBR. So, Mr. Aminur Rahman.
Thank you, sir. I now want to start with one relevant element which was not discussed much, is about the tax expenditure.
2 minutes for you.
Which means that what is the amount of tax that the government is losing by giving the tax concessions. NBR publishes an annual report, and in the last report there was no mentioning about the loss of revenue due to VAT concession, but there is a report on income tax loss, and the amount is 433 crore, which is around 1% of the total income tax collected in that year, which indicates, and this also says, that only 467 enterprises got this tax concession, which is very, very small in the total population of 22 lakhs. So you see, the tax concession is not affecting government that much. Second issue is that the government is giving tax exemption like tax holiday for heftily for areas like hill areas, and no concession at the moment, no tax holiday for the city corporation. But what we are observing, the industry is being set up in the city corporation, not in hill districts, which indicates that the enterprises have other considerations, not the tax incentives. The second issue is about the hassles. The taxpayers are more concerned about the hassles of paying tax and hassles of reporting, and it is being mostly perceived that the filing of tax return is too complex to be perceived. In this manner, what the tax authority involved, we saw that the small taxpayers are mostly concentrated in a market area. So the tax authority wanted to go what they call the spot assessment, the simple tax return and one-stop service. But when they went on operation, and the tax rate was also fixed, but while going to operation, other things came in. Every market has some kind of association. When the tax officials go there, the association people comes and says, well, sit down here and do your job from here. And unfortunately, all the associations, there are two opponent parties. The parties who are in power, they are just referring the names of the opponents and sketching down the name of their own parties. And ultimately, in the process, many of the good taxpayers are lost, and the small taxpayers who doesn't even know to need to pay the tax does not come into the picture. So this is how the operation is going on, and I think we have to sit in and see how we can making tax payment and tax reporting simple is easier said than done. And everybody who wanted to make the tax process and tax reporting simple ended up making it more complex. So we have to be careful in doing that, and I think there is a wing in NBR which is called Research and Statistics Wing, but I think they do not do any research at all, and they should do it and see how these things should be addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Aminur Rahman, you are next member, tax policy of the NBR. It seems you have not been able to convince your
SME development in all third world countries. Now, while I would like to congratulate the presenter on behalf of Ginny, wherein he has mostly given comparisons of various factors in all the 5 different countries of South Asia, but he, for some reason, I wonder why he did not give the rates of income tax imposed by different countries within South Asia. I think the paper would have been complete with all the rates. However, he has given in one of the slides, which I don't think he showed on the screen, but in the hard copy, he has the rates, the VAT rates comparison for South Asia. And when we, another point that emerged during the discussion is the multiple rates of VAT for these countries. But according to this paper, I don't see any rates in any of the South Asian countries. I wonder why. I think these are the couple of points that I would like to mention. Thank you very much.
About multiple rate of that? Yeah. Oh God! You cannot count.
Please. Your turn was long back.
It is in the report, but here it is just the general rate which is there.
Yeah, Mr. Kamran Rahman, thank you very much for your valuable points. I just want to mention that here we are not discussing the rate of income tax in different countries of South Asia. This we hear in every meeting that the chambers have with the finance minister and reported very strongly in the newspapers. Second, about multiple rates of VAT. We have it now, but it seems in future you are going to have a uniform rate. Because now we have 4.5%, 7.5%, I don't know if there is a 10% slab, and a 15%. So we have it now, we are going away from it. I don't understand why. I don't know the reasons, inside reasons for it. So that's all I can say. And now Mr. Humayun Kabir, the...
Thank you, sir. It's good to have being the last one because I think only one left. Then it will be easier for me to finish within your timetable. Actually, whenever we talk about tax, business development, everything, anybody will ask for the friendly tax regime, friendly tax law like that. But I will just say on 2 words, a non-adversary tax administration while enforcing or implementing the laws, whatever is there, and secondly, an effective mechanism for dispute resolution. When these 2 things is lacking, business development, any other, social governance will be totally denied. Probably, these 2 aspects needs to be done a lot. I don't like to elaborate here. Just this is the key point I will highlight. Second thing is coming there on the effectiveness of the tax rate, effective tax rate. It is not the nominal rate is important because in the South Asian region, particularly one gentleman from the Dhaka University, Dr. Mizani was referring to, you see, the tax administration is very much linked to accounting record and data, disclosure, transparency therein. And if the tax administration, because of poor tax recording or otherwise audit system, if they totally deny even the where this accounting system is properly done, at least in listed companies there, then it is the effective tax rate is becoming very high. Here in Bangladesh, I think the CPD being the think tank, there is a scope for studying at least for listed companies to see what is the effective tax rate. In a BCCF forum, we have seen that it's varying from 65 to even 70%, the effective tax rate in this country, which is a total denier of any business development environment. Regarding the property tax, there is, I think, it needs to be properly terminalized. If you make a land tax, say land tax. If you say property tax, say it, what do you mean by property? If you talk about wealth tax to becoming, say we are reviving. In the NBR sector, in end of 90s when the wealth tax was withdrawn because country economy is moving to the free economic direction and wealth tax bringing it again
it will be go against the fundamental principle of its free economic system, because capital formation it is a negative effect. Capital flight will be another thing you have to look into while talking that. If you're talking about evasion of land-related revenue, that's a different thing. Appropriately terminologize the word. And I will, many of the whole thing I will agree, but I will very beg to defer it, Dr. Hassan Mansoor, when you compare it to your property in Washington, Dhaka city. Sir, it is totally inappropriate. It is a very myopic, you are generalizing it, because USA economy and Bangladesh economy, Bangladesh governance system, UK, USA governance system, the government, you see they are taking revenue, how they are spending, it is totally different. Therefore, let's talk in while we are sitting in Dhaka's mood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kabir. I'm sure the CPD researchers will look into the effect. Progressive tax system, I must say that's history now. The progressive tax system I don't see existing anywhere in the world now. In the days of capitalism coming on the top and calling the shots, the progressive tax system is gone. And about land tax, property tax and wealth tax, I agree with what you have said, and I'm sure the policymakers will take this into consideration.
ধন্যবাদ স্যার, আমি পুরোটা বাংলায় বলতে চাচ্ছি, কেননা আমরা যে বিষয় নিয়ে আলোচনা করছি সেটা ঘরের কথা, পরের কথাকে বেশি জানাতে চাই না, এবং আমরা নিজেরা খুব খোলা মনে স্যার আলোচনা করতে চাই। আমি সিপিডিকে বিশেষভাবে ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি, এবং আজকের এই অনুষ্ঠানে আসার আমার অন্য একটা এর ছিল বেশি, যে আমরা যে এখানে ট্যাক্স অ্যাডমিনিস্ট্রেশন বা যেটা রিফর্ম করার জন্য চিন্তা করছি, আসলে আমাদের অন্য দেশগুলোর সাথে তা দেখার বিষয়। But about the study, I have some comments in the sense that the questionnaires which were placed before the SME people, I think I have doubt that whether they could understand the questions and the replies they have given. You see that these economies of the South Asia, they are at a different stages. India or Nepal or even Pakistan and Bangladesh, you cannot compare this. আমরা গত 2-3 দিনে যে ক্রিকেট খেলাগুলো দেখছি, সেখানেও আমরা দেখেছি এই ধরনের অনেক ধরনের অভিজ্ঞতার এবং বিষয়ের আছে। আমাদের বাংলাদেশের কনটেক্সটে যেটি তৌহিদ প্রেজেন্ট করেছেন, আমি মনে করি সেটা অনেকটা কারেক্টলি আসছে, কিন্তু এর আগে গিনির এখানে বহু ফ্যাক্টরে আমার কাছে মনে হয়েছে, যেমনটি নাসিম মনসুরও বলেছেন, যে অনেকগুলো অবজারভেশন, অনেকগুলো রেজাল্ট এটা আসলে ঠিক মতো রিফ্লেক্টেড হয়নি। হাওয়ার তবুও ইট ইজ এ গুড স্টাডি আমি মনে করি। বাংলাদেশের কর রাজস্বে বা নীতি নির্ধারণের ক্ষেত্রে সবচেয়ে বড় সমস্যা হচ্ছে যে আমাদের করদাতারা দুইটা বৃহত্তর অবস্থানে অবস্থান করছেন। আমাদের টোটাল করদাতাদের 90% হচ্ছেন অসাধারণ করদাতা, অর্থাৎ তারা খুব উপরের লেভেলে তাদের ব্যবসা, তাদের সব কিছু। আর 10% হচ্ছে সাধারণ করদাতা, যেটা আমরা এসএমই বা এদেরকে বলছি। মুশকিল হচ্ছে আমি যখন আইন তৈরি করছি, তখন ওই 90% হয়তো এটাকে খুব সিরিয়াসলি বাই দেয়ার পাওয়ার ওর, যেমনটি কিছুক্ষণ আগে বলা হয়েছে, ওটাকে অ্যাভয়েড করছেন। আর সেইটাকে ঠেকানোর জন্য আমি যত কঠোর আইন করছি, সব যেই পড়ছে ওই 10%-এর উপরে, ওই ছোটদের উপরে। কারণ তারা হয়তো ফাইট ব্যাক করতে পারে না, এবং আলটিমেটলি যে জিনিসটা আমরা লক্ষ্য করি যে কেন আমাদের দেশে কর জিডিপি রেশিও বাড়াতে পারছি না, যেটা লক্ষ্য করি যে যিনি কর দিচ্ছেন বা যে দিচ্ছে, দেখা যাচ্ছে তার উপরে যেই আমার যত আইনের যত এই বাধা বিপত্তিগুলো সেখানে যেই পড়ছে, ফলে অন্যদের আসছে না। আমরা স্যার লক্ষ্য করি ইন অ্যান অ্যাভারেজ, এখানে দেখানো হয়েছে ট্যাক্স জিডিপি রেশিও এশিয়ান কান্ট্রিগুলোর ভিতরে, তাতে ইন অ্যান অ্যাভারেজ 16 বা 17 হওয়া উচিত ট্যাক্স জিডিপি রেশিও, কিন্তু আমার হচ্ছে 10 বা 11। অর্থাৎ এই যে 17 থেকে 11 যে ডিফারেন্স, 5 বা 6, এটাই কিন্তু স্যার আমাদের ওই যে বলে ঘাটতি। জিডিপির 5 বা 6% যে আমার কর কিন্তু আসলে আসছে না। মাই ইকোনমি ইজ ক্যাপেবল অফ পেইং ট্যাক্স, বাট উই আর নট গেটিং ইট। এই যে 6 বা 5%, এটাই কিন্তু আমাদের ওই যে ভর্তুকি, ঘাটতিটা। যদি এই 16 বা 17% করতে পারতাম, তাহলে আমার আর ঘাটতি বাজেট হতো না। আসলে সহজীকরণ করতে হবে পদ্ধতির, এবং একই সাথে এই ক্ষেত্রে যেমন ভ্যাটের ক্ষেত্রে বলা হয়েছে আমার ইকোনমি একটা সেগমেন্টে বিভক্ত, সেখানে একটা ভ্যাট রেট আসলে এটা যথার্থ নয় এবং এটা খুব সিরিয়াসলি দেখার বিষয়। তা সুতরাং বিভিন্ন সেক্টরে যেহেতু আমরা, সুতরাং আইন কানুনের প্রয়োগও সেইভাবে হওয়া দরকার, যার জন্যে আমরা স্যার করের হার কমানোর কথা থাকা সত্ত্বেও, যেমনটি মাননীয় উপদেষ্টা মহোদয় কিছুক্ষণ আগে বলেছেন, কিন্তু কর্পোরেট ট্যাক্স বেশি এবং এটা কিন্তু আমরা কমিয়ে আনতে পারতাম যদি আমি এই 17-তে মানে সংখ্যা যদি আমি বাড়াতে পারতাম 80%, প্রায় 80, স্যার অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমাদের অর্থনীতি বিভিন্ন হিসাবে বলে প্রায় 80 লাখ লোক করদাতা আমাদের হওয়া উচিত, কিন্তু তো এসএমইদের ক্ষেত্রেই যেটা স্টাডিতে আমরা যেটা দেখছি যে আমাদের এসএমইর ডেফিনিশন, তাদের অবস্থান এবং সেই অনুযায়ী তাদের যে ধরনের উচিত সেটাকে করতে গেলে আসলে আইন কানুনের ক্ষেত্রে স্যার এটা পৃথকভাবে আলাদা হওয়া উচিত। আর সবশেষে স্যার আমি এটাই বলি যে ওই যে অসাধারণ করদাতার সাধারণ করদাতার ভিতরে আসলে একটা লিঙ্ক আপ হওয়া দরকার, এবং লিঙ্ক আপ হলেই স্যার যেমন জাপানের উদাহরণ দিয়েছেন আর কি, আমাদের এই ক্ষুদ্র এসএমইরা যদি বড়দের সাথে, যেহেতু তারাই ব্যাকবোন বা এই হিসেবে কাজ করছে।
মিস্টার মজিদ, আমাকে ডক্টর মুস্তাফিজুর রহমান বলেছেন যে we have another speaker who has to speak is Mr. Sapon Kumar Bala, CEO, DS, one of the authority of the Bangladesh study. So 2 minutes. Where is Mr. Sapon Kumar Bala?
Thank you, sir. Just a few issues. While we work in this study, actually, we have to work with a structured questionnaire. So many things are not actually incorporated here. So try to understand that thing. There was a limitation to handle the issues with the structured questionnaire. And another thing is, many of the findings, these are actually related to our targeted respondents. So we have visited many places. We have tried to contact with many respondents, but these are not randomly selected. So many of the responses for that reason is to some extent different from the actual result actually. But the thing is, actually everybody is paying some sort of taxes without formal registration. That is the reality, and how it can be taken care of. That was the main target, and how fiscal barrier should not be a barrier for fair business actually. That was the target in this study, and I handled with property related issues. Mainly we address the issues how a small businessmen, they are paying taxes relating to using some sort of establishment or places actually. And everywhere this is to some extent in the nature of rent actually. But practically when it is a tax, it is related to transfer of land related tax. And as per law, up to 20 bighas of say land, there is no tax for legal tax. But when registration is being undertaken, then there is some sort of forced imposition of tax. Although very little amount of tax, but this is not actually legally not taken. That was the thing, and for that reason, another say imposed pricing of land is also a question. And ultimately, say taxpayers under SME group, how they can be formally taken care of. Our expectation is, say regarding VAT, this package system actually to some extent ad hoc measure, but how this sector can be separately taken care of, that is the actually target. I think since this is a cross-country study, so many things should be seen in the light of those, in the light of differences in different countries also. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now I would like to give 2 minutes each to the two key presenters. Mr. Haider and Mr. Tawfiq Islam Khan. I would particularly like to flag two questions which were raised. One is about the why the issue of women entrepreneurs has not been discussed in more details, and secondly about the self-assessment of VAT. So 2 minutes each. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Chair. With regard to women entrepreneurs, because of a time limitation, we could not present in the presentation. But what we did in your binding, as well as its complete reports, we have 2 case studies for each country, maybe 4 somewhere, where there are success and failure, both stories, case studies, and they are very in detailed. But due to time shortage, we could not present over here. And with overall, the results with the women entrepreneurs were that they are mostly treated, especially in Pakistan and Bangladesh, they are treated much more respectable as compared to male. So they do not face as much difficulties as compared to, but if they but the only thing, the problem that they have is with the accountants hiring, chartered accountants hiring other people to file their returns and going to the different places. That's the cost they have to pay more than the male. That was the thing. And then there was a question about the scope of this study. The problem was that obviously we need to cover income tax, we need to cover corporate tax, but given the budget, and then this scope of the study took us like 1.5 years to just get a funding for this thing. So it was going on. It was a regular process, and out of that, with all 5 countries, we decided that these 3 can be funded at this moment. But we are right now applying for a new research extension. So surely your comments will be most welcome, and whatever you have said, I have taken notes, and we will put into it, and inshallah we'll get into the income tax and corporate taxes.
Well, that was not the scope of the customs duties, because there are many other aspects also with regard to the development of the SMEs. Tax, non-tax also. So we have delimited to these 3. Yeah, but a part of the tax. Yeah. But obviously, customs duties are also very important.
Thank you, Mr. Haider.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. No, I think the point is well taken. Particularly in the Bangladesh context, I think we could choose customs duty rather than not choosing the property tax issue. But as we have mentioned, the studies were designed for 5 countries, so we could not always customize the questionnaire, and perhaps some of the survey findings that was the problem. And if you look at one question has been raised, I'm completely agreeing with particularly Manzoor Bhai and our discussant that about the VAT refund. I think that is the response we didn't like, and we omitted that because we thought the responses were more the number of responses in that was higher than the people are actually paying VAT. So I think the respondent thought that they didn't face anything because they never probably went for it. So the responses were like that. So there are caveats. I totally agree with that. I think we acknowledge that. The second thing is on the women entrepreneur. Yes, we had 2 case studies, but I think the problem is with respect to that we found both cases. That's one woman entrepreneur. She told us that the kind of hassle she faced because of being women. That is something you have to take into consideration. We try to understand that whether the hassle she faced or the women entrepreneurs faced being a woman or not. If she were an email, that is what we consider. But in general, business people, they say that they face hassle anyway. It doesn't really matter being women or men. Now the second thing is on I think what type of farms we surveyed. We surveyed almost all of them into manufacturing. We tried to be within the manufacturing sector while conducting the survey. But so in that way, that is the issue. There was one question on why VAT is, it takes 5.5 years to be VAT registered. We have found that usually a lot of SMEs pay package VAT, and you don't, somehow you don't need to register yourself to pay package VAT in that way. They pay it collectively in some sort. So they take some time after being set up. That is what we found. We validated that. And the last thing on self-assessment of VAT, the problem is it should be one of the problems faced by the SMEs. They are also linked with SMEs. So they do not pay VAT. They think that if they pay VAT, they have to do all those accounting procedures. They cannot get VAT refund because the business they are doing with the farms are also not VAT compliant. So that this is a kind of a vicious cycle in many ways. And sometimes they think that when they are linked with large farms, they have to take the responsibilities of VAT because they cannot charge it to the large farms because they cannot produce the VAT challenge as well. So the value chain system is not working because it is the VAT system is not fully complied with. Thank you, sir.
Well, gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our discussions. Now it is my great pleasure to invite our special guest, Mr. Akramuddin, whom you all know. He is the president of the BCCI for quite some time and also chairman of the Standard Bank. Mr. Akramuddin.
Thank you, sir. He is my sir because I studied in same subject in physics, and he was my senior, not colleague, senior most personality. I used to call him sir always. And the Mr. Chairman of the Regional Dialogue on Tax Policy in South Asia and SME development in South Asia and how conducive are the tax policies. And it is very difficult now. Mr. Mustafizur Rahman requested me to come here, not requested, this is just like honor to come here because I have to come. Because you know that I had some contradiction, some misunderstanding regarding bad policy of the government at this moment with the help of the IMF. And I am already 100% in this fight, and I am trying to fight it out for SME sector especially. And this is Mr. Mustafizur Rahman, and the learned presenter is Mr. Tawfiq, Mr. Haidar, and Mr. Nasim Munjur, and the most respected participant, including Mirza Aizul Islam and Mr. Mujid, and all are very learned people. And I think I heard so many things that I become a confused person at this moment. Where from I will start and where I will finish. But I can tell you one thing, this is a very most appropriate time we are discussing the issue of VAT and taxes for Southeast Asia. And then we are having our budget in a short time. And budget I think it will be announced on 5th of June. And there is only 1 month for discussion. And on behalf of FBCCI, I can tell you that we have already arranged many meetings with the NBR. And on 8th, we are meeting for Kemon Budget Chai, what sort of budget we want to see at 8th, and all are invited to attend this session. And afterwards on 12th, we will have the consultative committee meeting, and there is an expert from FBCCI, Mr. Kobir, Mr. Mundur Sahib, and our director is Abdul Haq Sahib. They are very expert in this. Long 10 years or 20 years they are working for the budget. And now we are working for budget not for our particular country, but we are working for the Southeast Asia region. And as per Mr. Mujid, that SME started in Japan after Second World War in Germany. And they have developed their economy after the great Second World War, Second World War. Then SME played a vital role in this country for their economic development. And now there is a turn for the Southeast Asia. And Southeast Asia should work for that reason, because
we want to have we want to see our garment factory, and we already seen the garment factory is developing due to their backward and forward linkages. Garment factory cannot do himself all those things, but there is a forward and backward linkage there. Then he mentioned the Toyota, these other many factories in Germany and in Japan, in China at this moment also, they are having this linkage. And SME. SME is a very important sector, and we are talking about our one thing that we are employing 4 million people, including ladies, we are employing in garment sector. But proudly I can say that SME sector we are employing 5 million, is 50 lakh we are employing, and more sometime it is more. But it is not very collectively we cannot see, and they cannot fight it out. In government sector, SME, BGME, they can go to anywhere, to Prime Minister, to President, and to Finance Minister also, to get down their facilities, get to their facilities what is required by them. But SME sector is very poor sector. SME sector cannot fight it out. SME sector cannot approach to, and SME sector cannot go where they need to go. That is, the SME sector is the most important sector in Southeast Asia, and I think that in India also it is developed like this, in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, and in Nepal also. That there has been a limited progress in moving to e-tax. And what tax? We like to say that if it is automation, it will be difficult for us. But one point we have to start automation. That is no doubt. Automation, and they will learn it from our experience, and I think that the SME sector can be able to use the automotive sector. But for that reason, we need that discussion. It is my hope and aspiration there will be a member and a present official from VAT and taxes and other department, NBR department, few officers would be here. That would be benefited for us, because we could get the expression with those observations, the comment from that official, because we are facing trouble with the official. And NBR official, the chairman is here, Mr. Majid, because they should be friendly to the taxpayers, but they are not friendly. They become a big, they become their enemy sometime, because we thinking if we go to NBR, but any officer, they will put some tax which I could avoid if I don't go to the official. And for that reason, I can tell you one thing, that this is the time we have to see, and our government, we need to, the appropriate tax policy plays important role for development of enterprises, especially for the growth of small and medium enterprises. SME role is critical in pursuing the socio-economic development that I told, that is 5 million people is working SME sector, develop the region including Bangladesh. Therefore, alignment of the tax system to the SME growth may be considered as an important agenda for the policy makers, and policy makers is the government. And you know that I had a misunderstanding with our Honorable Finance Minister, especially with the VAT policy. And at this moment, our chairman told, at this moment is a multiple VAT system is there in Bangladesh, as because up to 30 lakhs, we expected 36 lakhs turnover tax. That is no tax for the poor people. But that's after, above the 36, up to 80 lakhs, it is 4%. If it is 4%, then how it is a single tax? This is a multiple tax, because multiple tax, it is already in action in Bangladesh. It is working for the last 20 years, but last 91. And then I can tell this time government is very adamant to fix up 15, but they cannot. Up to 80 lakhs, if it is 4, this is not a single tax. That is why we are requesting government to implement the multiple tax as per the capacity of the taxpayer, of the VAT payer. That we should think about it. And this is a proper, I think, I must thank the CPD for their timely action and for the timely this policy making. We are working very closely with the government so that this VAT payer and the SME should not be affected, and SMEs now today we have SME foundation, but they are not working so satisfactorily. On behalf of FBCCI, I can tell you we are always with the SME sector, and if our SME is developed, definitely Southeast Asia that will also develop. They can see. Sometime yesterday in cricket we become the champion, and we like to be champion in SME sector in Bangladesh also, and then I think that SME sector will develop in Bangladesh, and the FBCCI is working for mainly for the SME sector. But one thing, SME sector sometimes is a large taxpayer is also suffering, and SME sector is also suffering, but that should be uniform policy for the taxpayer. And with these few words, I like to conclude here with these things that thank you very much, the CPD and the presence of our chairman, and not the discussion. This is their paper was very exhaustive and informative, and thank you very much. From this session, from this discussion dialogue, we will learn so many things, and future we will be able to use this experience in our practical life. With these few words, thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you. Long live Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. Akramuddin, for summing up practically all the problems of the tax system, and particularly also related to the SME and the VAT. Well, according to the program, ladies and gentlemen, the chair has to say a few concluding words, and I intend to do that. 10 minutes have been allocated. Maybe I will not take 10 minutes. Please bear with me. Ladies and gentlemen, from the discussions, it will not be wrong to say that simplification of this tax structure for the SMEs, including rationalization of the rates, are highly important. At the same time, institutional arrangements for setting up of SMEs by small entrepreneurs need to be simplified and made more efficient. Collection of taxes under such a system will also be more efficient without any harassment. In India, there are some fiscal as well as non-fiscal incentives and facilities. Among non-fiscal facilities are Small Industries Development Bank of India, SIDBI, simplified export procedures, easy regulatory procedures for granting permission licenses, and finally integrated parks with good quality infrastructure for the SMEs. Among fiscal incentives, there are excise duty benefits up to a certain turnover limit, no service tax with less than certain amount of annual turnover value, exemption from registration under VAT within certain annual turnover in some states. Reportedly, discussions in India are going on about introducing a uniform VAT. We have to see how the system rates, how the system evolves. In Bangladesh, the central bank has an SME special program department, SME and special programs department, dealing with SME credit policies with refinancing facilities at a lower rate. Guidelines for having a dedicated desk and SME service center in the commercial banks with special facilities for women entrepreneurs. In some banks, there are also dedicated desks for women entrepreneurs. But credit is not enough in the absence of other facilities. Over the years, quite a few institutions have been created for helping the SME sector, such as BISKIC, Small and Cottage Industries Corporation, SCITI, the Training Institute, BIM, the Bangladesh Institute of Management, BITAC, the Industrial Technical Assistance Center, and NPO, National Productivity Organization. We need to evaluate their performance in promoting SMEs with increased employment, skill development and production, so that a tax base can emerge for collecting revenue under a unified system from a wider base instead of multiple taxes. Then comes the SME Foundation, which was set up with SME as the third sector. The foundation's objectives, as I have seen, list research, policy advocacy, credit arrangements, business support services, technology development, extension and diffusion, as well as public-private initiatives. These are certainly laudable objectives. I am not aware of any evaluation of their performance or any policy advocacy regarding taxes by the SME Foundation so far. Let me mention some of the important SME indicators, SME industries, to indicate how an efficient and large tax base can be tapped with rational and simplified procedures, taking advantage of the clusters for SMEs in different districts and regions of the country. To mention some, plastic goods, PVC pipes, bicycle and cycle vans, agricultural machinery, auto accessory, motor parts, bodybuilding of buses, umbrella factories, steel furniture, power looms, handloom industry, Jamdani sari, khadi industries, handicrafts, leather business, rice mills, poultry industry and silk industry and so on. There is tremendous potential of these for meeting domestic demand but also for exports and for increasing employment. Many of them have export potential which can be promoted with fiscal concessions and exemptions like tax holiday, etc. According to the data that I have seen, light engineering industries are contributing 35% with total industrial contribution to the GDP in Bangladesh. 35%, yes. This includes the Dolaikhal model and the Bogra model and also the clusters in Chittagong. The light engineering industries, there are about 40,000 small-scale light engineering industries all over the country in operation, with employment of 6.5 million people, annual turnover of 15,000 crores, growing at the rate of 15 to 20% a year, and exporting about 15% of their production. I went into these details only to indicate how an efficient and rational tax structure for the SMEs can help to generate significant amount of revenue. Finally, we should consider VAT on production above a predetermined annual turnover level only, as Hassan Mansoor has said. We need to set up separate industrial parks in each district, at least in some regions, with subsidized power and essential infrastructure, which will help tax collection easier from administrative, also easier from an administrative point of view. Deemed export benefits should be given to SMEs units which are supplying parts to large industries which are exporting. We also need to develop training centers for skill development in selected industrial parks or clusters areas under the training institute and the BITAC. And let me suggest in conclusion that efforts should be made to identify the best practices in this context in each South Asian country through the research that is going on for the benefit of other countries. I thank you all for giving me a patient hearing.
With the permission of the chair, I'd like to tell one thing. As a banker, he mentioned I'm a banker. For 16 years I'm a banker, but at this moment in my bank, these SME entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs. SME entrepreneurs must be registered with a very specific area and genuine registration. Then we are taking less than 10% interest. And I'm requesting you to send SME entrepreneur to my bank and women entrepreneur so that I can give them a loan in a reasonable rate. Refinancing is also available as because Bangladesh Bank refinance not all the cases, but a few cases they used to do the refinancing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We are really grateful for your patience and for being with us and for your contribution. Thank you.
আরেকটা বিষয় আছে
Thank you, Tawfiq.
In lower down, you go and so that